I died taking a bullet from my comrade back on the border. I was a special forces soldier, the best of the best. But instead of staying dead, I woke up in a completely different world, some ancient kingdom called Diyu. I'm now in the body of a hunter, also named Lu Tu, living in a rough border town called Wuchuan. A few soldiers barged into my house, shaking me awake. They told me the emperor was giving away wives, women who'd committed crimes, sent here as a reward for us unmarried men on the frontier. I played nice, called them officers, even though they were just regular grunts. One of them tossed me a flatbread for the compliment. Wuchuan is a lawless place. Criminals, exiled convicts, frontier soldiers, all thrown together. The law means nothing here. Only strength matters. For most people, this would be a nightmare. For me, I felt right at home. They brought us to the market square where a platform was set up. Women of all ages stood on it, mostly tough, dark-skinned, strong-built types. They all looked worried about their future. But one girl caught my eye immediately. She was different from all the others. Fair skin, a pretty face, her hair tied in a simple high ponytail that swayed in the wind. She looked like one of those campus beauties from my old life. The local commander, Zhou Taishan, announced the rules. Every man picks a wife today, but there's a catch. If she doesn't bear a child within 1 year, both husband and wife get demoted to slave status. And slaves in Wuchuan are worse than animals. They do the hardest labor, and when the enemy army attacks, slaves get pushed to the front lines as cannon fodder. That changed everything. Every man rushed to pick the biggest, sturdiest woman they could find. Nobody cared about looks anymore. A strong body and wide hips meant she could likely bear children. Even the older women got chosen fast. The pretty girl with the ponytail? Nobody wanted her. She was too thin, too delicate. My neighbor Wu Lauer laughed at me and dared me to marry her. He even offered 100 copper coins as a wedding gift if I did. Others joined in, raising the bet, mocking me. The girl heard everything. I could see the shame burning on her face, but she held her head high and looked away, refusing to cry. I didn't know her story yet, but I could tell she had pride, real pride, the kind that doesn't break. Our eyes met for just a moment. I don't know what she saw in mine, but she looked surprised, like she wasn't expecting whatever it was. The platform was almost empty now. The commander spat on the ground and told me to hurry up and grab a sturdy woman. I made my choice. No, I said. I want her. On the way home, I could tell my new wife Yushi was confused about me. One moment I was standing up for her like some kind of hero, the next I was cursing like a street thug. She didn't realize yet that both sides are just who I am. I was in a great mood. Back in my old life, I never had any luck with women. I spent all my time in the military surrounded by rough guys. They once dragged me to a dance party, but I stepped on a girl's foot so hard it ended before it started. Now here I was with a wife, skipping straight past all that dating nonsense. I started humming a pop song from my previous life, something about a good man never letting his woman get hurt. When I looked down, Yushi was staring at me with tears in her eyes. I panicked and thought my singing was that bad. But she actually liked it. She asked if I wrote it myself. I just said I was humming whatever came to mind. She seemed to relax after that, and even leaned her head against my arm. But then I stopped at a shop and ordered 2 pounds of the strongest liquor they had. I saw the fear flash across her face. She'd heard stories about border men who drink and beat their wives. I felt bad, but I needed the alcohol for something important. I spent almost all the gift money at the market buying garlic, wild fruit, coarse salt, sugar, a clay pot, 20 pounds of millet, and a sharp knife. Fruits and vegetables cost more than meat out here in Wuchuan's winter, but I needed these things urgently. We got back to my place in Quishan village, south of the city walls. It wasn't much, a broken-down shack with a bed made of dried grass. I pulled out the only piece of cloth I owned and laid it down as a bedsheet for her. I noticed her staring at the flatbread on the table, swallowing hard but too well-mannered to just grab it. I told her to eat. She carefully broke off a small piece and put the rest back, quietly saying I should eat too since I'd worked hard carrying her. That caught me off guard. No woman had ever cared about me before. I grabbed the other half and swallowed it in 3 bites. Once she felt safe enough that I wasn't going to boss her around, she devoured her piece like she hadn't eaten in days, didn't even bother when her own hair got in her mouth. She told me her name was Song Yushi and asked what to call me. I told her she was my legal wife, so, husband. would work just fine. She smiled and called me Xianggong. Hearing that softened something inside me. I'd spent years as a cold-hearted soldier, but I'm still a man. For the first time in this new world, I had someone to care about. Girls in this era are really simple. Half a flatbread and they warm up to you. My buddies back in the old world used to complain about having to take girls shopping, to movies, buying gifts, learning lipstick shades. Sounded exhausting. Then I got to work. I crushed the garlic, boiled the liquor to extract high-proof alcohol, and pulled out the knife to sterilize it over the fire. Yushi asked what I was doing. Treating your leg wound, I said. She was shocked. You know medicine? You don't believe me? I believe you. Because you told all of Wuchuan that I'm your woman. She smiled proudly at the memory. I rolled up her pant leg and warned her straight. This was going to hurt badly, and I had no anesthetic. She could bite down on something or scream. She nodded nervously. I started cutting away the dead flesh with the sterilized knife. The second the blade touched her skin, she flinched. I was about to find her a stick to bite on, but she grabbed my arm and sank her teeth into it instead. Now we were both in pain. I worked fast, cut out the rotten tissue, squeezed out all the pus. This kind of thing was routine for me. Took less than a minute. Then I grabbed the concentrated liquor and gave her a look to brace herself. She nodded. I poured it over the wound. Even though she was ready, her whole body shook and she screamed. I held her tight so she wouldn't touch the wound. The neighbors heard the screaming and started cursing at us through the walls, thinking we were doing something else entirely. Called us shameless. We didn't hear a word of it. When it was over, Yushi was soaked in cold sweat, her eyes red, trembling. She looked up at me and asked, "Is it done?" "Almost. There's more?" "I can't take it." She looked at me like a frightened little deer, and I couldn't help but laugh. "I still need to bandage your wound. Please, go ahead." When I grabbed her calf again, she flinched. Her whole body was extra sensitive after all that pain. I looked around the room for something clean to wrap the wound with. The only piece of cloth we had was the dirty sheet under her. I asked if she had anything clean. She blushed and pulled out a piece of fine white silk from inside her clothes, a handkerchief her mother had woven by hand. I could tell it was meant for something private, a wedding night keepsake. But I just took it, gave it a sniff to check it was clean, and started wrapping her leg. She looked embarrassed and happy at the same time. I boiled the silk in hot water first, wrung it out, then bandaged her wound properly. Next I got to work on the garlic extract. I'd originally thought about trying to cultivate penicillin, but that takes too long, and in these filthy conditions, I'd probably end up growing toxic mold instead. So I went with the safest option, allicin from garlic. It's a natural antibiotic and easy for the body to absorb. The process took about 2 hours. I had to break down the garlic enzymes at roughly 50 degrees, mix it with the alcohol I distilled from the liquor, heat it further, then filter out the impurities. I was working with pots and bowls and whatever I could find, and every time something went right I couldn't help cheering and flashing Yushi a victory sign. She had no idea what the gesture meant, but she watched the whole thing wide-eyed. I applied some of the extract to her wound, then scooped up a spoonful and told her to drink it. She swallowed it without hesitation. "Aren't you afraid I just brewed poison?" I joked. She smiled. I've never seen anyone brew poison right in front of their victim. We both laughed, then suddenly went quiet. Our eyes locked. Two lonely people in a broken world, and something sparked between us. I leaned in slowly. She closed her eyes, her eyelashes trembling. I kissed her, just a light one. "Your leg will heal completely before long," I told her. She threw her arms around my waist, beaming. "Really? You're so good to me. I don't even know how to thank you." I held her close and stroked her back. "Thanking me is easy. Just make sure I don't get sent to the slave ranks after 1 year." She buried her face in my chest, blushing, and gave a soft as her answer. We stayed like that for a while, leaning against each other, listening to each other's heartbeat. I felt a kind of peace I'd never known before. And up close, I realized she wasn't as thin as she looked. Under those loose robes, she had real curves. But the moment didn't last. A gust of cold wind cut right through the house, and Yushi started shaking badly. Her infection made her weak, and the cold hit her hard. I looked around. We had nothing. No blankets, no bedding. Everything I owned was on my body. Even I could barely stand sleeping on that flea-infested straw bed, and I'm used to roughing it in the wild. For someone like Yushi, it was miserable. It was the dead of winter, and Wuchuan sits in the far north. The snow outside was piled thick. I finally understood why poor and cold always go together. Winter truly kills poor people. Even in my old world in the 21st century, that was still true. Survival came first now. Luckily, the original owner of this body was a hunter and had left behind a well-maintained water buffalo horn bow hanging on the wall. I took off my worn cotton jacket and draped it over Yushi. I left the knife with her too. Rest here. I'm going out to hunt. Wait. She reached into her clothes and pulled out a golden hairpin, beautifully crafted. She pressed it into my hand. I came from Huaishua City yesterday. The mountains are buried in snow, and there could be wolves and tigers out there. Please, pawn this first. You can hunt when the weather improves. I wanted to refuse, but her eyes were so determined. I took the pin and held it tight. Yushi, I'm sorry. You just married me, and I'm already making you pawn your dowry. She brushed the dust off my clothes gently. You're my husband. I believe our life will only get better. This bit of money is nothing. Even my mother would have told me to do the same if she were still alive. Yushi, you're wonderful. Something swelled up in my chest, and I kissed her again. We held each other for a long time before I finally pulled away. Come home early. I'll wait for you to eat together, she said. I will. I stepped outside feeling like I owed her something. We didn't even have a proper wedding, and here she was giving up her last keepsake so I could feed us. How could I ever let a woman like that down? I tucked the hairpin in my coat, slung the bow and a bundle of arrows over my back, grabbed some rope, and headed toward Eagle Mountain to the south. Game was getting scarce up there. That's actually how the original Lu Tu starved to death. But I had to try. The 20 pounds of millet at home would last maybe 7 days at my appetite, and without any meat, I'd burn through it even faster. I hate sitting around watching supplies run out. I need to control the situation. When it comes to getting things done, I was always among the best in any world. That's how I became the youngest soldier king. Right outside the village, I ran into a group of women gossiping under an old tree. They were the village intelligence network, knew everyone's business. The second they spotted me, their eyes lit up. Lu Tu, we heard you married a pretty wife. Why don't you bring her out so we Annies can take a look? Pretty is an understatement. She's fair-skinned like a nobleman's daughter, skin so soft you could squeeze water out of it. Then Zhao Dama, old Five Zhao's mother, sharp-tongued as always, curled her lip. Too bad she's a cripple. When I heard Zhao Dama call my wife a cripple, something inside me snapped. I drew my bow and aimed the arrow right between her eyes. She screamed and fell on her backside, terrified. Everyone went dead silent. I told them all in a cold voice, if anyone dares insult my wife again, I'll put them in the ground. They nodded frantically, too scared to say a word. Only Annie Chun, my neighbor, stayed calm. She offered to look after Yushi while I was gone and told me to be careful in the mountains. I thanked her and headed out. It took me half an hour to reach Eagle Mountain. Near the base, footprints were everywhere in the snow. Other hunters had already picked the area clean. I had to go deeper. The snow got thicker with every step, sinking up to my shins. Good thing I was still wearing the deerskin boots my mother made 2 years ago, or my feet would have frozen solid. I cut 2 pieces of hard bark and strapped them to my boots with rope to spread my weight, makeshift snowshoes. I could even slide downhill on them. That sped things up a lot. While I was alone, I tested my accuracy with the horn bow. It was way heavier than any compound bow from my old life. Even with my strength, drawing it fully was tough. My first shot at 30 meters was off by about 2 centimeters. Not good enough. I kept shooting, retrieving the arrows, and shooting again. By the 30th arrow, I was hitting a tree trunk at 50 meters with less than 1 centimeter of error. That was acceptable. I went looking for water. Where there's water, there's game. After another half hour of hiking, I found the hot spring deep in the mountain. And there, standing alert by the water's edge, was a deer. A big male elk. My heart raced. A deer is a gold mine out here. Meat to eat, antlers and blood to help Yushi recover, and hide to make into warm clothing that could get us through winter. I crawled into position through the trees, making myself invisible. The deer was cautious. It stood there watching for a full 5 minutes before it finally lowered its head to drink. But I still didn't move. I know from experience that the moment of greatest vulnerability comes right after satisfaction. I waited for it to finish drinking. When it lifted its head, I pulled off my glove, read the wind, calculated the distance, and in one breath, stood, drew, released. The arrow punched through the deer's skull at 35 meters. It ran another dozen meters on pure instinct before collapsing in the snow with a final cry. I ran over and cut its throat to end the suffering quickly. The elk weighed at least 200 pounds. Way more meat than we could eat. I could trade the rest in town. But as I reached for the arrow in its head, every instinct I'd honed under enemy fire screamed at me. I threw myself 5 centimeters to the left. An arrow meant for the back of my skull whizzed past and buried itself in the snow. I hit the ground and rolled in a zigzag pattern to the nearest tree. From the angle of the arrow, I quickly pinpointed the attacker's position. Whoever it was had been here longer than me, waiting patiently, probably planning to kill me and steal everything. But they'd made a mistake. When they tried to reposition through the trees, the deep snow slowed them down. I had my bark snowshoes. I was faster. I found my opening, drew, and put an arrow through their chest. They dropped. This time I didn't rush in. I'd learned my lesson. I watched them crawl on the ground, then put a few more arrows into them. I circled the entire area, checking for any other enemies hiding nearby. Only when I was sure it was clear did I approach the body. The man was lying face down. I drew my bow one more time and shot an arrow into where his heart would be. The corpse let out a desperate growl. He'd been playing dead. He died for real this time, probably unable to believe anyone could be that careful. I flipped him over. Blonde hair, blue eyes, hooked nose, wearing crude leather armor. A Wuan soldier, the barbarian enemy from across the border. That explained the ambush. I knew Wuan soldiers never crossed the border alone. If one was here, there had to be more nearby. And if this one didn't send back his safety signal, his companions might get suspicious and attack Quishan village. I stripped the dead man's armor, took his saber, arrows, and sheepskins, then hoisted the elk onto my back. Before leaving, I drained the deer's blood, partly to keep the meat from turning foul, partly to lighten the load. I filled my wine pouch with some of the blood, drank as much as I could straight from the deer's neck, and poured the rest over the Wuan soldier's body. The scent would draw wolves to destroy the evidence. The warm blood rushed through me and heated my frozen limbs instantly. I felt strong, alert, ready. I picked up my pace and headed home as fast as I could. The walk back took over an hour. When I finally saw the smoke rising from Quishan village chimneys, I let out a breath of relief. Villagers were coming back from gathering firewood. Coal was mined nearby in Huaishua, but the government controlled the prices so tightly that regular people couldn't afford it. Chopping wood was all we had to survive the cold. People spotted me carrying the elk and crowded around, running their hands over it. Lu too, you're better than your old man ever was. He never brought down anything this big. Tell us where you found it. We want to try our luck too. Then Zhao Lao Wu, old 5, slithered through the crowd and suggested I just share the meat with everyone, and they'd pay me back later. Others jumped on it right away. Come on, Lu too. You've got a pretty wife and a huge deer. And is that a sheepskin on you? Share a little. I looked at them coldly. I caught it. Why should I give it to you? Go hunt your own. And I'm warning you. I ran into a Wuan soldier up in the mountains. Everyone went quiet for a second. Fear flashed in their eyes. But then Zhao Laowu laughed it off. You? Survive a Wuan soldier? Those guys can cut through a 100-man formation with just 3 or 5 fighters. You wouldn't last a second. The others relaxed and piled on. Even trained veterans barely survive a lone Wuan scout. You expect us to believe you killed one. They called me a liar trying to hoard meat. Then a little girl about 10 years old came running up to me. Chun Huahua, Annie Chen's granddaughter. Big brother Lu too. You're finally back. I ruffled her hair. Huahua, were you out collecting firewood again? Good girl, she nodded. Grandma told me to wait here. If you weren't back by dark, she was going to send people into the mountain to look for you. That warmed my heart. I'd only asked Danny Chun to watch over Yushi, but she'd been worrying about me too. I ignored everyone else and smiled at Huahua. Let's go home. I'll roast some meat for you. Her eyes went wide. I can have meat too. I took the basket off her back. It was almost as tall as she was, and said of course she could. She started swallowing hard. The last time she'd had meat was 3 years ago when her father brought home some lamb after winning a battle. Her mother had been coughing for years and couldn't do hard labor. After drinking lamb soup that time, her coughing had eased for a while. I could see Huahua was already hoping deer meat might help her mother too. We hadn't gotten far when a voice called out, "Lu Tu, you gonna pay tax on that deer, or what?" It was Zhang Bo, the village's most notorious bully, squatting at the entrance with his crew. They shook down anyone who came through, checking bags for anything worth taking. I kept walking. Zhang Bo ran up and blocked my path. "Hey, we're talking to you. You deaf?" Huahua grabbed the back of my shirt and hid behind me. "You're nothing," I said. "You don't have the right to tax me. Get out of my way." His buddy Wang Hao stepped up with a disgusting grin. "We heard you got a pretty wife. You got no parents to teach you what to do on the wedding night. Maybe we should help you figure it out." I slapped him. The crack echoed through the whole village. Wang Hao flew through the air and landed several meters away, tumbling into the dirt. Everyone around us froze. The man weighed over 100 pounds, and I'd sent him flying with one open hand. He crawled up, glaring at me with pure hatred. "You dare hit me? Boys, get him." But Zhang Bo didn't move an inch. He wasn't as stupid as Wang Hao. He'd seen what that slap meant. The kind of arm strength behind it wasn't something any of them could match. Villagers started cheering. "Good hit. I've wanted to see those thugs get what's coming for years." The old Lu Tu had been a pushover who never fought back, so these bullies had never seen him throw a punch. Now they couldn't decide whether to run and lose face in front of everyone, or stay and get beaten. I started walking toward them. Then I heard it, rapid hoofbeats in the distance. Everyone in the village knew that sound. 3 Wuan horsemen came charging through the dust at the village entrance, armed with curved swords and bows. "Wuan cavalry, run!" someone screamed, and the village erupted into chaos. People scattered in every direction. An arrow thudded into the ground right next to Zhang Bo's feet. He yelped and scrambled away on all fours. I moved fast. I grabbed Huahua, dodged an arrow that would have killed her, and shoved her towards safety. "Run home. Tell your grandma and my wife to go. Now." Her face went white, but she nodded and sprinted away, dropping her basket. I threw off everything weighing me down, ducked behind the big elm tree at the village entrance, drew my bow, and fired at the lead rider's forehead. But this one was sharp. He sensed the shot coming and jerked his head an inch to the side. My arrow sliced open his face and tore through his ear, spraying blood like a red flower bursting open. He pressed his hand to his ruined ear, smeared the blood across his face, and roared in fury. "There's an archer. He's the one who killed fourth brother. Kill everyone in this village." Everything happened in seconds. The 4 Wuan riders were already 40 meters from the village entrance, firing arrows at anyone too slow to run. An old woman I knew. She used to weave straw sandals in the summer, had a little grandson at home, took an arrow through the back and fell face first into the dirt. Her eyes went gray as the life drained out of her. Then I heard a small voice behind me. I turned around, and my blood went cold. Zhang Bo, that coward, had grabbed little Huahua and was using her as a human shield on his back. An arrow had punched clean through her chest. I screamed every curse I knew. There was no time to help her. The riders were 10 meters away. I drew my bow and pulled the string back as far as it would go, adrenaline flooding my body. One of them shouted a warning to the others, but they underestimated how fast my arrows fly. In half a second, the shaft punched through one rider's forehead. He toppled off his horse, eyes still open, still searching for me even in death. I fired again immediately. The 2 remaining riders were right on top of me now. One swung his blade at my skull. I didn't have time to aim properly. I shot by instinct and threw myself into a forward roll. The rider blocked my arrow with his sword, sparks flying off the steel. The other one charged straight at me, snarling, "You little mutt, I'll kill you." To the Wuan, our people are nothing. They call us 2-legged sheep. When food runs out, they've been known to cook us. And here I was, a mere civilian, picking off their warriors one by one. Unforgivable in their eyes. His sword was about to split my head open. He was already smiling. Then his smile froze. During my roll, I'd pulled the saber I'd taken off the dead Wuan soldier in the mountains. I swung upward and took his arm off, clean through, armor and all. Even missing a limb, the man threw a left hook at my throat. A true wolf of the steppe, fighting to the last breath. But he'd made a mistake picking a close-quarters fight with me. After the first cut, I never give a second chance. I flicked the blade up and slashed his throat. Blood sprayed across my face and chest. The whole thing took maybe 3 heartbeats. The man who'd been sneering at me moments ago fell off his horse. In his final seconds, he couldn't even lift his eyes high enough to see my face. The last rider had been so confident his comrade would handle me up close that he'd charged into the village with his back exposed, hacking down anyone he could find. I jumped onto the dead rider's horse and galloped after him. He'd already killed Zhao Lao Wu's mother, that sharp-tongued old woman who'd called my wife a cripple. She lay in a pool of blood, face twisted in terror. Zhao Lao Wu was screaming, tears streaming down his face. He grabbed a hoe and charged at the horseman. The Wuan soldier didn't even take him seriously. He ducked the hoe with a lazy tilt of his head and swung his blade at Zhao Lao Wu. But my arrow smashed into his sword mid-swing and knocked it out of his hand. I rode up and shouted, "Your fight is with me, Wuan dog." He stared at the horse I was riding and recognized it. "You killed Fabu?" I aimed another arrow at him. "Enough talk. I'll send you to join him." He tried the old warrior trick, asked me to dismount and fight him, fairly, man to man, since he'd lost his weapon. I put an arrow through his chest before he finished the sentence. He hit the ground and glared at me with pure venom. "You ambushed me. There's no honor in that." I climbed off the horse, stood over him, and spat in his face. "Honor? Did you think about honor when you were cutting down unarmed people? You don't get to talk to me about fairness." I turned to Zhao Lao Wu, who was sobbing over his mother's body. "Crying won't bring her back. If you're a man, come over here and finish him yourself." He stood up, hatred burning in his eyes. But when he looked at the dying Wuan soldier on the ground, he hesitated. Other villagers started peeking out from their hiding spots. When they saw there was still one enemy alive, they ducked right back inside. I felt disappointed, but I understood. The Wuan weren't superhuman. They were just vicious and willing to die fighting. Our people weren't born weaker. It was years of military defeats that had broken their spirit. The terror ran too deep. I stepped forward and cut off the last rider's head with one swing. Then I looked at Zhao Lao Wu and sighed quietly. There was nothing more to say. That's when I heard her voice, panicked, tearful. "Husband, husband." Yushi was stumbling toward me, limping badly, covered in dust. She fell before she reached me. I ran to her and caught her in my arms. "I'm fine. Are the Wuan all dead?" "The Wuan are dead," I said. "But some vermin are still alive." My eyes scanned the crowd, searching for Zhongbo. That piece of garbage had used a 10-year-old girl as a shield. Huahua took an arrow meant for him. A man like that doesn't get to keep breathing. I searched everywhere, but couldn't find Zhongbo. That bastard would have to wait. There were wounded people who needed me, especially Huahua. Annie Chun had only kept Huahua at the village entrance because I'd asked her to watch out for me. If not for that, the girl wouldn't have been there at all. The guilt twisted in my gut. "Yushi, is there any of that medicine I made today left?" "Yes, bring me some. I need to save people." She turned to go, and Wu Lauer's wife stepped up to help her walk back since her leg was still bad. Cries rang out across the entire village. At least 10 people were dead. I carved that number into my memory. I finally found Huahua at the back of the crowd. Auntie Chun and Huahua's mother were cradling her little head, tears dripping down their faces. I pushed through and knelt beside her, checking the wound. "Big brother Lu too," she whispered. "Huahua, be a good girl. I can fix this. Just don't fall asleep, okay?" She shook her head weakly. "Can I ask you something? Anything. Can you give some meat to my mom and grandma? Mom's cough gets better when she eats meat." Her mother broke down completely. The villagers around us couldn't bear to watch either. Kids die young all the time out here, but she wasn't even 10 years old. I heated my knife over the fire and kept talking to her. "Of course they'll eat. And you will too. We're all eating together tonight." A faint smile appeared on her pale face. "Thank you, big brother." I worked as fast as my hands could move. The arrow had gone clean through her chest, but by some miracle it missed her organs. The problem was blood loss. She was tiny and malnourished, and she'd lost too much. I told her mother to hold her up and keep her still. The woman had already given up hope. Even city doctors couldn't treat a wound like this. But when she saw I wasn't giving up, something lit back up in her eyes. She did exactly what I said. I cut the arrowhead off the front, then yanked the shaft out from behind in one pull. Huahua passed out from the pain instantly. I shouted for boiled cloth. Auntie Chun rushed over with a clay pot of hot water. I plunged my hand straight in, didn't care about the burn, grabbed the cloth, wrung it out, and wrapped Huahua's wound tight. Yushi arrived with the garlic extract. I pried Huahua's mouth open with a spoon and fed it to her. Then I told her mother to take her home and let her rest. Whether she lived or died was up to fate now. My face was stone cold when I finished. I'd never felt killing intent this strong before. The Wuan were hateful, but Zhang Bo was something worse, using a child as a shield to save his own skin. Other families with wounded people saw what I could do. They dropped to their knees all around me, begging, "Lu Tu, save my wife. I'll kowtow to you. We were wrong to treat you badly. Save my mother, and I'll serve you the rest of my life." A whole crowd on their knees. These weren't bad people. A few harsh words here and there didn't matter. They weren't Zhang Bo. I couldn't just stand there and do nothing. I turned to Yushi. "Get people to butcher that deer and start cooking the meat." The Wuan had attacked this village partly because of me, because I'd killed their scout in the mountains. Now wasn't the time to be selfish. I needed to pull everyone together as fast as possible. I went from person to person, pulling arrows, cleaning wounds, bandaging. Under my direction, the whole village started working, boiling water, cooking meat, tending fires. For the first time, there was order. Then we heard it again. Hoofbeats. Lots of them. Everyone froze and started to bolt. I set down the wounded man I was treating and told Huahua's mother, "Bandage the others the way I showed you." Then I shouted to the village, "Any man in Quishan with guts, pick up a weapon and come with me." They all looked at each other. The fact that they didn't run was already a breakthrough. They'd watched me kill 3 Wuan riders single-handedly, and that had changed something in them. But fighting alongside me? That was a different question. "I'll go." Zhao Laowu stepped forward, face red with shame and fury. He picked up a Wuan saber from the ground. "They killed my mother. I want revenge. Count me in." "They killed my wife." "Me too." 5 men total. Skinny, malnourished, shaking. I looked at them and raised my voice. "Your men. Follow me." I grabbed my bow, took a sword, and ran for the village entrance. The 5 followed behind me, trembling but moving. I told them to hide and wait for my signal, then drew my bowstring and aimed at the approaching torchlight. I counted about a dozen riders. If they were more Wuan, even running wouldn't save us. Better to fight here. They entered range. I was about to let my arrow fly when a voice called out. "Quishan Village. I am squad leader Zhou of the Wuchuan garrison. Lu Tu, it's the army. Our soldiers." I didn't lower my bow. "Wait. Let me be sure." Only after I saw the Wuchuan banner did I tell the others to stand down. They let out huge sighs of relief. "The army's here. We're safe." I wasn't so relieved. I knew how military men in feudal systems worked. Their arrival might not be good news at all. Sure enough, the first thing the soldiers did when they arrived was glare at us for holding weapons and bark. "The squad leader is here. Why aren't you on your knees?" Wu Lauer and the others started to drop, but I grabbed him and pulled him back up. I injured my knee killing Wuan soldiers. I called out, "I can't kneel." A rider pushed forward from the group. I recognized him immediately, Zhou Yabing, the son of Commander Zhou Taishan. The same brat I'd confronted at the market 3 days ago for harassing village women. He recognized me too. His eyes swept over our ragged little group with pure contempt, and he sneered. "Are you seriously telling me that you peasants killed Wuan cavalry?" Zhou Yabing and I had history. 3 days ago I'd caught him harassing women in our village. Now here he was again, and I knew he'd make trouble. Yushi and the rest of the villagers gathered around us. I'm not someone who backs down from a fight, and I was in the right. "No wonder it took you so long to get here," I said, looking at his fat belly. 10 miles, and you're this late." His soldiers barked at me for being disrespectful. I just laughed. "Squad leader? You? I bet you can't even draw a bow." That stung. Everyone knew he only got the rank because of his father. The soldiers hated it, but couldn't say a word. Wu Lauer and the others dragged out the 3 Wuan corpses and laid them in front of the troops. Every soldier there had fought on the front lines. They knew exactly how terrifying Wuan cavalry were. The exchange rate was 30 of our men for 1 unarmored Wuan rider. These 3 were wearing leather armor, a higher rank. Killing even one was supposed to be nearly impossible for regular troops, let alone a civilian doing it alone. Zhou Yabing climbed off his horse, waddled forward with his hands on his belt, and smiled. "Brave of you to insult me. Let's see what you've really got." I stood my ground. "My blade is for killing Wuan to the north, not for bullying our own people," he sneered. "Who says you killed them?" These Wuan soldiers were clearly slain by me and my men. Yushi had already heard what he was planning before I got back. She knew he wanted to steal my kills and claim the glory. She called over Wu Lauer's wife to help her step aside, then leaned close to me and whispered, "Strike hard. End it fast." That surprised me. I'd expected her to tell me to hold back. After all, you're not supposed to fight officials. But this girl had sharper instincts than I'd given her credit for. I'd underestimated her. Zhou Yabing waved his hand. Dozens of armed soldiers advanced on me, weapons drawn. The tension was thick enough to cut. The villagers wanted to help, but were scared. This was the commander's son backed by real soldiers. But Zhao Lao Wu and the others who'd stood with me earlier refused to step back. "The army has no shame," Zhao Lao Wu called out. "Lu Tu killed 3 Wuan riders by himself. That's an incredible feat, and you're trying to steal it. Disgusting. We've got your back today, Lu Tu." These men were risking their necks for me. Earlier they'd followed me against an outside enemy. That took courage. But standing against the military? That was putting their heads on the chopping block. Whatever petty arguments we'd had before meant nothing now. I nodded at them, then turned back to Zhou Yabing. "You're holding a grudge because I caught you harassing village women. Now you want my war credit too. Aren't you afraid the garrison general will punish you?" He grinned. "Who here saw you kill them?" "As far as everyone knows, I led my men here and wiped out the Wuan. Isn't that right, boys?" His soldiers were disgusted, but they had no choice. "The squad leader is mighty," they said through gritted teeth. "Is that so?" I smiled. Then I moved. Zhou Yabing was a fool. He knew I'd killed Wuan soldiers in close combat, and still let me get within arm's reach. Before anyone could blink, I was right in front of him with my dagger pressed against his throat. The cold steel made his whole body break out in goosebumps. For all his bluster, this man had never faced an enemy blade in his life. His legs started shaking. The color drained from his face. "Lu Tu, let's talk. Don't do anything stupid." "Talk? You surrounded me with armed men. That's your idea of talking?" "Why, yes. I love talking things out. I'm very reasonable." I drew a thin line of blood across his neck and smiled. "That's too bad. I'm not a reasonable man." He screamed at his soldiers to drop their weapons. They refused. A soldier's weapon is his life. They die before letting go of it. And they certainly weren't going to obey this spoiled brat. "Put them down. Do you want me to die?" "Do you know who my father is?" One of the soldiers answered flatly. "Your father ordered us never to drop our weapons under any circumstances." "Maybe just hang in there a little longer, sir." I couldn't help grinning. The more I smiled, the more terrified Zhou Yabing became. "Fine. Keep the war credit. I'll report it honestly. This was all a misunderstanding." "No misunderstanding," I said coldly. "I don't trust you anymore." "Then who do you trust?" A powerful voice boomed from behind us. "Would you trust me?" Everyone turned. Zhou Yabing's face lit up. "Father, save me. This man is rebelling." It was Commander Zhou Taishan himself, the same officer who'd run the wife selection ceremony. He rode in at the head of over 100 soldiers. He dismounted and walked straight through the crowd. Every soldier stepped aside without being told. When he reached me, he looked at the Wuan corpses, then looked at me. "Good lad," he said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "I noticed something special about you at the market today. Turns out I was right. You've accomplished something remarkable." I listened to Zhou Taishan's praise, but didn't drop my guard. One nice sentence wasn't enough to make me trust him. His son was a snake. The father could be one too. He seemed to read my mind. Without getting angry, he slowly placed his hand on my arm and guided the dagger away from his son's neck. I let him. If he tried anything later, I'd have no problem taking him out too. The 6 border towns are vast. I'd find somewhere else to live. Behind me, Wu Lauer and the others were about to shout a warning, but Yushi stopped them. "Trust his judgment," she said quietly. "Don't make a scene." That one sentence stunned them. A woman with that kind of composure in this era was almost unheard of. My wife of less than 1 day was calmer under pressure than any of them. I could see the realization dawning on their faces. They were glad they'd never crossed her. Everyone held their breath. The old veterans in the ranks figured I was a dead man. In their experience, any civilian who held a blade to a soldier's throat got executed on the spot, family enslaved. No questions asked. Then Zhou Taishan did something nobody expected. He turned around and slapped his own son so hard that Zhou Yabing flew through the air and crashed into the dirt. The entire crowd went speechless. Zhou Taishan was known as a fair commander, but Zhou Yabing was his only son, born late in life. For a father to watch a commoner hold a knife to his boy's throat, and then punish the boy instead? Nobody could believe it. Zhou Yabing held his face, confused. Father, why? How did I raise such garbage? Zhou Taishan roared. The border is falling apart. The Wuan are crushing us. Our men are dying. And you dare steal credit and slander a real fighter. He started kicking and punching his son right there in front of everyone. The soldiers tried to intervene. Commander, that's enough. It's not enough. Today he steals glory. Tomorrow he'll betray his own father. I'll beat this ungrateful wretch to death. I almost laughed. The old man was putting on quite a show. I caught him sneaking glances at me between kicks. He wanted me to jump in and stop him. That was supposed to be my cue to play the gracious hero. But I decided to let him sweat. I stood there with a blank face and watched. Zhou Taishan kept going, but I could tell he was pulling his punches, aiming for the backside, nothing that would cause real damage. Still, his pampered son couldn't take much, and after a while the screaming got quieter. Finally, after he'd been at it for a good long while, and was clearly running out of steam, I stepped in and grabbed his arm. Commander Zhou, please stop. Don't hit your son anymore. He let out a secret sigh of relief, but kept the angry face. No, a father must discipline his child. I leaned in close and whispered so only he could hear. Commander, if you keep acting, I'm going to stop holding you back. He immediately broke into a violent coughing fit, face red, gasping for air. I grabbed his arm and helped him sit down on a stone block nearby. He drank some well water and finally caught his breath. What a disgrace to my family, he sighed dramatically. I played along. Your son is still young. He can be shaped into something better. You should give young people chances. He understood my meaning perfectly. I was telling him I'd let this go, but his son had better not cross me again. He gave me an approving look. You're not just a skilled fighter, he said. You've got a generous heart too. That's rare. Tell me, would you like to join the army? I cupped my fists and bowed. What man wouldn't want to take up arms and defend his country? I'm willing to serve. Please give me the chance. Commander, Zhou Taishan stood tall, hands behind his back. Well said. Lu Tu, by order of the Wuchuan garrison, for single-handedly killing 3 armored Wuan cavalry, you are awarded 30 taels of silver and promoted to the rank of squad leader. You will receive 2 strings of coins per month. You may personally select 10 men as your soldiers, each paid 1 string per month. You are responsible for the defense of Quishan village and neighboring Songshan village. Come spring, you fight on the front lines. The military here runs on the garrison system. The ranks from top to bottom go: garrison general, commandant, commander, captain, squad leader, corporal, and private. Even the lowest rank, private, gets a monthly wage, which is how they get people to enlist. Promotion requirements are strict and based on enemy kills. Of course, rules are rules, and people are people. That's how someone like Zhou Yabing ended up as a corporal with 0 combat experience. But for me, the army was the fastest path to power in this world. This was my specialty. Squad leader was the lowest officer rank, just 10 men under me, but it was a start. From here, the road ahead was wide open. Thank you, Commander. I'll kill as many enemies as I can and live up to your trust. Easy words to say. He'd given me face in front of everyone, so I gave him face right back. That's how these things work. Good work. Keep it up, he said. If Wuhan raiders come again, light the signal fire and we'll send reinforcements. If you see smoke from another village, you must go help them. For future kills, just send the heads to the garrison and you'll receive credit. He waved his hand, and a soldier brought forward 30 taels of silver and a wooden tag with the character 4, squad, carved into it. I bowed. Safe travels, Commander. I turned to face the village. Every person there dropped to their knees and called out in unison. We salute the squad leader. The killing intent hadn't left my body yet. I swept my gaze across the crowd, and nobody dared meet my eyes. Being promoted to squad leader and put in charge of 2 villages didn't make me safe. If anything, things just got more dangerous. Those 3 Wuhan soldiers I killed would bring retaliation. Their people don't let deaths go unanswered. And Zhou Taishan, I wasn't foolish enough to think he'd actually forgiven me for humiliating his son. That beating was pure theater to maintain his reputation in front of the troops. The grudge between us was real and permanent now. But I wasn't afraid. If you want to rise, you're going to step on someone's toes. There's only so much food on the table. You eat what you can grab, then kick everyone else off. 2 lifetimes taught me that nothing is given. Everything is taken. Looking at the villagers' numb faces made me sad. Over a dozen people had died in the last hour. Some of these people had been laughing and chatting just moments ago, and now their bodies lay right there in the dirt. But I saw almost no anger in anyone's eyes. Years of Wuhan raids and corrupt officials had broken these people's spines completely. I wasn't a saint. I couldn't fix that, and I wasn't going to try. Not yet. First, I needed to keep myself and my family alive. I addressed the crowd. Commander Zhou made me squad leader over Qishan and Songshan villages. Starting today, everyone follows my orders. The garrison system here means civilians are farmers in peacetime and soldiers in wartime. It's been this way for generations. Nobody objected. Has anyone seen Zhang Bo? Silence. People looked at each other and shook their heads. Then a young woman in the back raised her hand. Zhang Bo's new wife, from the same group as Yushi. He's hanging in the well behind our house. I lowered him in there myself. I waved to Wu Lauer and Zhao Lao Wu. Their real names were Wu Peng and Zhao Liang. Bring him to me. These two hadn't done much in the fight, but they'd stood by me and earned their soldiers' pay, 1 string of coins a month, enough to buy some grain. After seeing what I could do, they'd completely forgotten the old Lu Tuesday. Now there was only respect. They took off running. They dragged Zhang Bo back, and he was still mouthing off. Are the Wuhan gone? Where are you taking me? When he saw me standing there holding a long saber, confusion crossed his face. Lu Tuesday, you had me brought here. Neil, Zhao Liang didn't even ask why. I'd avenged his mother. My word was law to him. He kicked Zhang Bo behind the knee and shoved him down. The squad leader told you to kneel. Squad leader? Lu Tu is a squad leader now. Zhang Bo's eyes darted around in panic. Sir, what did I do? Is this about the deer meat? You already punished Wang Hao. I looked down at him. When the Wuhan attacked, running away would have been one thing. But you grabbed little Hua Hua and used her as a human shield. A child. You piece of garbage. He relaxed slightly, like this was something he could talk his way out of. I was carrying her to safety. How was I supposed to know the arrow would hit her? If she got shot, that's just her bad luck. The kid was born unlucky. Anichin pushed through the crowd and grabbed his collar, wailing. You heartless monster. She's so small. How could you use her to block arrows? Zhang Bo shoved the old woman away. Get off me, you old hag. I said I was saving her. If your granddaughter got hit, it means she was born to die young. She's not. You did this to her. Keep bothering me, and I'll make sure your whole family never has a peaceful day again. He was so used to bullying people that the threats just came out automatically. Then he remembered I was standing right there and gave me an awkward grin. Squad leader, I'd like to serve under you. I've got a jar of fine wine at home. Stolen from the city, top quality stuff. Come try it. The villagers were furious now. Shameless. Using a little girl as a shield. How come scum like you survived while my husband died? Heaven has no eyes. None of it bothered Zhang Bo. He'd been a thug his whole life. Insults bounced off him. He kept smiling at me. That wine is aged daughter's red, squad leader. Just one sniff and you'll... I walked up to him with a smile. You know what? I really would like to try it. I'm your man from now on. Whatever you say? Let me go get that wine right now. He scrambled to his feet and shoved Zhao Liang aside. Let go of me. I'm getting wine for the squad leader. We're all brothers here. The villagers stared at me in disbelief. They thought I was actually going to let him off, take his bribe, and look the other way. Some of them spat on the ground in disgust. They figured the old, honest Lu Tu was gone, replaced by just another corrupt petty official. Even Zhao Liang looked uncomfortable. If I let Zhang Bo go, that vengeful rat would make life hell for everyone who'd stood against him. Then my blade flashed. Zhang Bo's head left his shoulders and sailed through the air. For one brief instant, his eyes saw the world from a height he'd never known. The vast sky, the snowy ground rushing up. Then it hit the dirt and rolled to a stop. His body toppled forward. Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. I raised my voice so every person in the village could hear me. From this day forward, anyone who betrays or harms their own people will end up exactly like him. The show of force worked. Everyone was afraid of me now, and that was exactly what I needed. I told the villagers to take their wounded home and come to my house tomorrow for medicine. Then I ordered everyone to line up for meat. The moment they heard meat, even the people who'd just lost family members lit up with hope. They ran home to grab their pots and bowls. I put Wu Peng and Zhao Liang in charge of keeping order. That's just how life works out here. Death can come any day from war or famine or bad luck. Learning to face it and keep going is something everyone has to master. When I finally got home, I was exhausted. But the smell of meat soup hit me as soon as I walked through the door. Yushi had already cooked a pot of deer stew. She'd heated water too, and she wiped the blood off my face with a cloth. Sit down and eat. I was starving. If I hadn't been trained to endure hunger in my past life, I would have collapsed hours ago. There was about 5 pounds of deer meat in the pot. We sprinkled coarse salt on it and ate with our knives, tearing into it like animals. A woman's voice came from outside. "May I come in, sir?" A thin, poorly dressed woman walked in carrying a wine jar. She set it down and dropped to her knees. "Thank you for killing Zhang Bo." Her name was Yi Xinger, the wife assigned to Zhang Bo at today's ceremony. She said now that he was dead, she had nothing. He'd never farmed, had already sold his land. She couldn't survive alone. She begged me to take her as a concubine. I glanced at Yushi. She was staring at me with laser focus. I cleared my throat. I understand times are hard, but I'm not taking a concubine. You can come work at my house and look after my wife. You'll eat with us, but there's no pay. A flash of disappointment crossed Xinger's face, but she nodded quickly. Thank you. I don't need money. Just food is enough. Yushi helped her up gently. Sister Xinger, I can tell you came from a good family. I'm sorry you'll have to take care of me. Xinger shook her head. All that is behind me now. I just hope someday I can go home and visit my parents' graves. Both women had tears in their eyes. Two girls from good families, both dragged to the edge of the world by fate. After Xinger left, Yushi kept glancing at me. I caught her staring. Is there something on my face? Why didn't you take her as a concubine? I shrugged. You were sent here as a criminal's punishment. You've suffered enough. I want you to have a stable life. She didn't respond. When I looked up, tears were streaming down her cheeks. You're so good to me. You're my wife. The only person in this world I trust. Who else would I be good to? Are you full? Yeah. Rest up. I need to go handle a few things outside. She grabbed my hand shyly, her cheeks turning pink. Come back soon. I'll wait for you. To rest together. The dim oil lamp cast a golden glow on her face, and she looked more beautiful than I'd ever seen her. I wanted nothing more than to stay. But the threat of a Wuhan night raid hung over me like a thorn I couldn't pull out. I touched her face and smiled. Heat some water for me. I want to wash off all this blood when I get back. Outside, I did the math on the 30 taels of silver Zhou Taishan had given me. That was 30 strings of copper, 1,000 coins each. At 10 coins per pound of millet, I could buy 3,000 pounds. But I couldn't spend carelessly. I had to feed my soldiers until next month's pay arrived, and these men had empty stomachs. Each one could easily eat 2 or 3 pounds of grain a day. I also needed to buy weapons. Every man needed a blade, plus arrows. Without proper equipment, I couldn't hold anyone's loyalty. At the meat distribution site, most villagers had already taken their share and gone home. Only Wu Peng, Zhao Liang, and a few others were waiting. I told them to split the leftover meat among themselves and take it home. They were thrilled. Then a skinny young man named Lu Yang stepped forward. Squad leader, I think the Wuhan might attack tonight. I'd like to stand guard after dinner. That impressed me. He was an unremarkable-looking kid, but he had guts and good instincts. I knew him. He and his younger brother Lu, who were hard-working and always helped neighbors with chores, never asking for anything except a meal. In a lawless place like Wuchuan, that kind of character was rare. The others suddenly found the ground very interesting when they heard guard duty. Can't blame them entirely. It was freezing cold, and most had just gotten married today. Zhao Liang's mother had just been killed, but apparently that wasn't going to stop him from his wedding night. That's just how things work around here. I noted everyone's reaction and said nothing. My rule is simple. More work, more reward. Didn't you get a wife today? I asked Lu Yang. He shook his head. I'm only 15, too young. But can my brother come guard with me? He's 14, and he's been working alongside me since we were little. He's sharp. Bring him. He takes the first half of the night. You take the second. He gets 1 string of coins a month, too. Lu Yang's face broke into a huge grin. Thank you. We won't fall asleep. I promise. He ran home and came back with his brother, a nervous kid who looked exactly like him, same stubborn set to the jaw. Lu Hu bowed stiffly. Greetings, squad leader. I tossed him one of the sabers I'd taken from the Wuhan soldiers. You and your brother share this for now. Stick with me, and I can't promise you'll get rich, but I promise you'll eat. The moment I said, eat, both their eyes lit up like lanterns. They'd been orphans their whole lives, surviving on whatever scraps neighbors could spare. They knew exactly what a full belly was worth. I gave the Liu brothers a hard look. Don't think getting paid means you can relax. You're responsible for this whole village's safety. If you slack off, you know what happens. They stiffened up fast. Understood, sir. Then I turned to Wu Peng and Zhao Yang. Your job tonight. Feed those 3 horses. Wu Peng started whining. In this snow? Where am I supposed to find feed? The horses won't die from one hungry night. My wife's waiting. I slapped him before he finished. Did I ask for your opinion? You took the pay. That makes you my soldier. My words are military orders. He dropped to his knees, terrified, swearing he'd do it. Zhao Liang grabbed the horses without a word. We'll handle it, squad leader. Lu Yang and Lu, who are underage kids volunteering to freeze on guard duty. And you're complaining about feeding horses? If you don't want to work, I'll throw you in front of the Wuwan next time they come. That shut Wu Peng up for good. I went around checking on the wounded villagers one more time. People were shocked. I'd been promoted, and I was still personally tending their injuries. In their world, even the lowest official exploits commoners. They'd never seen anyone with rank kneel in the dirt to bandage a peasant's wound. I didn't care about their gratitude. The people weren't the problem. The rotten court and the useless military leadership were. When you're starving, you do desperate things. Give people full stomachs, and they'll live decent lives. I plan to visit Songshan village tomorrow to scout for talent. History taught me that great leaders always found their people among the common folk. Liu Bang assembled his empire-building team from a backwater county. Zhu Yuanzhang found generals and ministers among peasant farmers. This vast northern frontier had to have good people hiding in it somewhere. On my last round, I found Liu who's sitting by a fire at the village entrance with a little yellow dog beside him. That surprised me. Nobody in the village could afford to keep a dog when people themselves were starving. Most dogs had been eaten long ago. I squatted by the fire and tossed in some wood. The kid jumped up, panicking. Squad leader? I wasn't spacing out, I swear. I waved him back down. Everyone zones out when staring at the same spot too long. Where'd you get the dog? The puppy whimpered and hid behind him. Liu, who looked at me nervously. Found him in the mountains a few days ago. Please don't eat him. I laughed, called the dog over, and scratched its head. The little thing was friendly. A guard post needs a dog. He'll hear things before you do. Train him well. His food is your responsibility. The kid beamed. I told him to stay sharp until his brother came to take over, and that I'd have every household bring firewood so he could burn as much as he wanted through the night. I checked on the horses on my way home. Wu Peng and Zhao Liang were out walking them to find grass. My earlier slap had done its job. Back inside, I found Yushi sewing by lamplight. She'd somehow put together a quilt. Where'd you get cotton and cloth? She smiled. Auntie Chun, Xing'er, and other villagers brought them. Everyone gave a piece of clean cloth and a bit of cotton to celebrate your promotion. They noticed we had nothing for winter. Something loosened in my chest. I'd only been in this world for one day, and it still didn't feel like home. But knowing these people could be grateful, that they were worth protecting, that helped. You're pretty handy with a needle, I said. My mother had me trained by a seamstress who once embroidered the Empress's wedding gown. That wasn't a slip of the tongue. She'd said it on purpose, watching my face. I sat across from her. Ready to tell me? She nodded. You're my husband. I can't keep secrets from you. But check outside first. Make sure no one's listening. I closed the door and sat back down. Go ahead. She took a deep breath. My father was one of the 8 pillar generals of DU. The former Grand General. I didn't flinch. She looked confused. Why aren't you scared? Why would I be? She'd asked villagers about my background. Just an ordinary hunter's son. She couldn't understand why I'd hear something like this without blinking. My father held the highest military rank in the empire. But the emperor, Shundi, killed him. Killed my mother. Killed my 3 brothers. 28 members of my family, all dead. Aren't you afraid I'll bring disaster on you? Fire burned in my eyes. I don't know how to spell afraid. He murdered your parents and brothers? Then from today, he and I are enemies. I don't care if he's the emperor. One day I'll march into the capital and take his head. Yushi froze completely. She didn't even notice the needle pricking her finger, blood welling up on her fingertip. She'd never imagined the man she'd married would say something like that, and mean every word of it. She wrapped her arms around me from behind, pressing her face into my back. Her tears soaked through my shirt. My parents, my brothers, 28 people from the Song family who died for nothing. Thank you. Thank you. You're my woman. Your enemies are my enemies. Don't thank me. Besides, any emperor who lets his country rot this badly deserves to be replaced. I intend to do exactly that, she gasped. Not just loyal and brave, but ambitious enough to dream of toppling an empire. What girl doesn't fall for a hero? Everything I'd done today, standing up for her, killing Wuhan raiders, protecting the village, refusing a concubine, swearing revenge against an emperor without hesitation. In her eyes, I was a real hero. She held me tighter, her voice barely a whisper. Take me tonight. Please, can we bow to heaven and earth first before? You know, of course, I used to think ceremonies were pointless. But someone once told me that life's big moments become anchor points in your memory, and memory is really all we have. This was my first wedding in 2 lifetimes. It deserved at least something. I helped Yushi to the window. She knelt under the moonlight and made her vow first. I, Song Yushi, willingly marry Lu Tu. Through all lifetimes, I will never leave him. Heaven and earth bear witness. If I betray this oath, let me be destroyed body and soul. She looked at me with tearful eyes, waiting. I stared up at the sky solemnly and said, Same here. She burst out laughing. Be serious. The gods are watching. I knocked my head on the ground 3 times. Mom, Dad, father-in-law, mother-in-law, I'll take good care of Yushi. Rest easy, simple words. But that's exactly what she needed. She knew I was a rough man. Flowery speeches would have felt fake. Honesty made her feel safe. She laid out the silk handkerchief her mother had made, the one I'd used for bandages earlier, carefully smoothing it on the bed. When she caught me watching, she buried her face in the quilt, blushing crimson. What are you standing there for? She mumbled. That was all the invitation I needed. We didn't stop until the second watch of the night. Then we fell asleep in each other's arms. I woke at dawn. Yushi was still sleeping peacefully. I kissed her forehead and slipped out to train. Rain or shine, sick or tired, I always train in the morning. I'd slept less than 6 hours but felt incredible. Maybe it was the deer blood, the meat, or just the fact that for the first time in 2 lives, I wasn't alone anymore. I warmed up in the courtyard, then ran through my black Dragon 18 fists, my best combat technique. In my old world, this form had been classified as forbidden. My old squad leader had taught it to me secretly. By the time I finished the full set, my body was just getting warm. I was about to grab some food when I noticed Yushi leaning against the doorframe, watching me. That's an incredible style, she said. Even the founding emperor's long fist can't compare. You know martial arts? She pouted. Don't underestimate me. I grew up watching my father train my brothers. I poked her nose playfully. All right, expert. Go make breakfast. She smiled, but then got serious. I'm no expert. My father never let me train. But from what I saw just now, your external martial arts have already surpassed my father's level. But you have one critical weakness. That got my attention. Me? The top special forces soldier in all of China? A weakness? What weakness? Enlighten me. Beautiful. She dodged my tickling hand and laughed. Stop it. I'm serious. Fine. Tell me, your external techniques are perfected, but you've never trained your internal breath. Internal breath? Yes. My father always said that without internal cultivation to support your external techniques, your joints and bones accumulate hidden damage. When you get older, every rainy day will feel like ants chewing through your bones. That actually made sense. It was the same principle as athletes in my old world. Gymnasts and acrobats who performed incredible feats when young, but were crippled by chronic injuries by 40. That's why wealthy families never let their children go into those fields. She grabbed my arm and pulled me inside. But our Song family has a special internal breathing method. If you practice it half an hour every day, you'll be fine. She showed me a strange standing posture, a type of foundation stance I'd never seen before. It looked odd, almost uncomfortable, but I trusted her. In this chaotic world, we only had each other. She had no reason to deceive me. She explained the breathing patterns, how long to hold each position, then went off to cook. I started practicing. Even with all my abilities, my malnourished body couldn't hold the stance for the full half hour. But just standing for 15 minutes had sweat pouring off the top of my head. My Black Dragon 18 fists had barely warmed me up. This simple-looking stance made every muscle in my body scream. The old general's family technique was the real deal. Yushi had finished cooking long ago, but didn't interrupt me. She just watched with admiration in her eyes, and when I finally noticed, there were tears on her cheeks. She was remembering her older brothers, how they'd struggled and complained when their father forced them to practice this same stance as children. Brothers who were now dead. When I finally completed the full half hour and released the posture, my entire body was trembling. For something that looked so simple, it was more effective than any scientific training method I'd used in my previous life. If I hadn't married Yushi yesterday, this internal breathing technique would have disappeared from the world forever. No wonder traditional martial arts declined in my old life. The real secrets died with the families that kept them. I shared my experience with Yushi, and she was stunned. Her father had personally trained her 3 brothers, and it took them days of practice to reach the level of physical response I'd achieved in one session. She started wondering if I might actually be a martial arts genius. And between that and how I'd handled everything yesterday, maybe I really could avenge her family someday. Yi Xing'er arrived, scolding us for cooking without her. Yushi waved her over to eat breakfast together, then mentioned she had plans for the day. What plans? I asked. Making more of that medicine you brewed yesterday. People will keep getting hurt, and we can sell the extra for silver. You know how to make it? She then recited every single step of my Allison extraction process. Temperatures, timing, everything. She'd even measured the duration of each stage by counting her own pulse beats while watching me work. I was blown away. I never intended to teach her. She'd learned the entire procedure just by observing once, and her precision was frightening. You're incredible. I love you. I planted a big kiss on her cheek. Xing'er turned bright red. She was still technically untouched. Zhangbo had been killed before their wedding night, so watching us flirt was almost too much for her. I heated some water and had Yushi feel the temperature with her fingers. Remember this, around 50 degrees. The extraction only works at this temperature. She nodded thoughtfully. Can you explain why when you get back? I groaned internally. It wasn't enough that she'd learned the method. She wanted the science behind it too. My little wife was some kind of engineering prodigy trapped in ancient times. Fine, I'll explain tonight. Xing'er will help you brew today. Villagers will be coming for medicine soon. Yushi straightened my clothes and said softly, be careful out there. I'll be waiting. I wolfed down some millet porridge and headed out. Zhao Liang and Wu Peng were already waiting with the horses. Lu Yang and Lu who stood beside them. For men total under my command, barely enough, but it would do. I left Wu Peng behind to watch the village and light the signal fire if Wuan riders appeared. The rest came with me to Songshan village. I climbed onto a horse. I'd had riding training in my past life, but I was rusty. It took me a while to find my balance. Zhao Liang and the Lu brothers couldn't ride at all, so they jogged alongside me. Only 3 miles, good exercise for them. Along the way, villagers came out to greet me warmly. Squad leader, have you eaten? Take some of my mother's steamed bread. Come down and have some water. I nodded to each of them. Behind me, my men were speechless. They'd never seen Kushan villagers act like this. Normally, everyone guarded their own scraps and trusted nobody. One night under my leadership, and the whole atmosphere had changed. Zhao Liang rubbed his eyes when he saw stingy old Auntie Li offering food. Auntie Li, since when are you this generous? She sniffed. I'm not being generous to you. The squad leader personally treated my son's wound last night. This morning the cut is already scabbing over. Zhao Liang looked up at me on the horse with deeper respect than before. I could tell something was clicking for him, that I wasn't the old Lu Tu anymore. Something had fundamentally changed, and even though he couldn't explain it, being near me made him feel safe. The Lu brothers walked behind me with their chests puffed out. Following a leader like me meant they finally had some dignity. No more being looked down on. We reached Songshan village. A few young loafers were lounging at the entrance, the same type as Zhangbo troublemakers who'd never done an honest day's work. When they saw us approaching, they relaxed once they recognized us. Oh, it's just you guys. What do you want here? Zhao Liang spoke up. We're here to inspect the village. The leader, a petty thief named Su Fei, laughed in our faces. Inspect? Your village is the same rank as ours. Who do you think you are? I pulled out the wooden badge Zhou Taishan had given me, the character for squad carved into it. Su Fei saw it was real, but still didn't take me seriously. He knew the old Lu too, the pushover who let people steal his game without a word. Well, look at you, big shot squad leader. And you brought two little beggars as your soldiers. He was mocking the Lu brothers. Lu Yang's face went dark. He and his brother had spent their lives doing honest work for meals. They'd never stolen or begged. Being called beggars by a real thief was the worst insult imaginable. I kept my expression calm. Su Fei, go gather everyone at the village entrance. Who do you think you are? Just because you're squad leader doesn't mean I take orders from you. I'm not your soldier. Lu Yang had heard enough. He drew the saber I'd given him and pressed it against Su Fei's throat. How dare you disrespect the squad leader? Su Fei and his crew froze. The kid they used to mock as a beggar now had a blade and the nerve to use it. Su Fei slapped himself across the face and forced a smile. Sorry, sirs. I misspoke. Lu Yang raised his voice for everyone to hear. Disrespect the squad leader again, and I'll take your head. A cold voice came from behind us. Such big talk. I thought the commandant himself had arrived. A group of armed soldiers walked up, surrounding a thin, dark-skinned man in leather armor. Every one of them carried a polished broadsword. The man looked me up and down. So you're the Lu Tu who killed 3 Wuhan riders? That's me. Who are you? Lead a squad leader under the Wuchuan garrison. I manage Songshan and Nangang villages. I understood immediately. Zhou Taishan had told me yesterday that Songshan was mine. But here was Li Da, arriving before me to claim it. This was Zhou Taishan's doing, payback for humiliating his son, delivered through a proxy. What a coincidence. Commander Zhou assigned Quishan and Songshan to me yesterday. Go back where you came from. Li Da pulled out a grubby piece of paper with some scribbles on it. See this? Transfer orders. I almost laughed. The writing looked like a child's doodle. They'd assumed I was an illiterate hunter and tried to bluff me with a fake document. I took the paper, tore it to shreds in front of everyone, and said loudly, "You illiterate fool. Someone tricked you with a child's scrawl, and you believed it was official orders. Do you know that forging military documents is punishable under martial law?" Li Da's face twisted with rage, but my accusation had flipped the situation on him before he could react. Songshan villagers started gathering to watch. He doubled down. How dare you destroy the commander's orders? Men, seize him. He drew his broadsword and swung at me. He knew Wuhan soldiers had died in Quishan, but he didn't know I'd killed all 3 myself. His blade never came close. Before his arm finished rising, my dagger was already at his throat. You pull a sword on me the second things don't go your way, I said, smiling without warmth. But when the Wuhan attacked yesterday and the signal fires went up, where were you? Why didn't you bring reinforcements? I was in Nangang. Couldn't get away. I pressed the blade until blood trickled down his neck. Nangang is barely 10 miles from Quishan. You could have run there on foot. You heard the Wuhan were coming and you hid, didn't you? That's a lie. I've served 4 years and never lost to the Wuhan. A bitter laugh came from the Songshan crowd. Of course you've never lost. You always run before they arrive. A ragged teenage boy stepped out from the villagers. Skinny, dressed in tatters, but with eyes hard as iron. My name is Nie Yun, and I don't lie. A year ago, my father served under you. When the Wuhan came, you ran and left him behind to fight alone. He killed 1 Wuhan soldier by himself, and you stole the credit. That's the only reason you're a squad leader. Li Da's eyes flickered with panic, but he kept bluffing. Your father Nie Feng was the coward who ran. Nie Yun dropped to 1 knee in front of me. Since Li Da became squad leader, he's been terrorizing our villages. He uses thugs like Su Fei to do his dirty work. He takes any woman he wants. If he likes someone's wife, he shows up at their home. When the Wuhan attack, he posts men at the village exit to stop us from fleeing while he escapes on horseback. Please, squad leader, give us justice. The rest of Songshan village dropped to their knees behind him, heads hitting the ground. Everything Nie Yun says is true. Please help us. Li Da screamed at them. Rebels. You're all rebels. I'll report this and have every one of you executed. My voice cut through like ice. Sounds like they're telling the truth. He turned to me, terrified now. Don't do anything crazy. I was appointed by Commander Zhou himself. Kill me and you'll face military court. The villagers kept kowtowing. Please, give us justice. I spoke slowly, making sure every word landed. The country gave you a soldier's rank to protect the people, not to prey on them. Today I'll do heaven's work and put down this animal. One flash of the blade. A red line opened across Li Da's throat. He stumbled backward, clutching his neck, and collapsed into the crowd of villagers. Someone shouted first, "You killed my wife, you bastard." A man threw himself on Li Da and sank his teeth into exposed flesh. Then another. Then another. Years of abuse, humiliation, stolen wives, murdered families. It all came pouring out at once. The villagers tore into him like starving wolves. Li Da couldn't even scream. He died piece by piece, buried under the people he'd spent years tormenting. Through all of it, Nyeyin stayed on one knee, tears streaming from bloodshot eyes, but he never moved. He never looked at Li Da's body. I walked over and put my hand on his head. "Go on, let it out." He shook his head stubbornly and bowed to me 3 times, forehead touching the dirt. "My father died because of Li Da, but my real enemy is the Wuwan. They're the ones who killed him. I'm begging you, squad leader, let me join your soldiers. Let me avenge my father." His eyes were clear. His will was unbreakable. Something about this kid moved me deeply. "Good," I said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "A son who honors his father and serves his country, that's a real man. You're with me now. We'll kill Wuwan together." Li Da's soldiers were the most awkward ones left standing. Their boss was dead, and they didn't know what to do. They should have tried to avenge him, but they knew what kind of man Li Da was better than anyone. He'd abused them too, and their wives were probably still lying in Li Da's house right now. When I looked their way, they dropped their swords and fell to their knees, begging. "We didn't see anything. Please let us go." I smiled coldly. "You followed Li Da and helped him terrorize these people. You think you're innocent? He forced us. If you took his favors, you're not innocent. Take them." Lu Yang swung first, one clean cut that severed a man's hand tendons. Lu Hu and Zhao Liang slashed at their legs, dropping them. The Songshan villagers swarmed in and finished what we started. I wasn't worried about Zhou Taishan blaming me. As far as anyone knew, I'd only acted in self-defense after Li Da drew his weapon first. The villagers killed them in a frenzy. You can't punish an entire village. Lu Yang dragged Su Fei over and kicked him to his knees. "What do we do with this one?" The crowd roared. "Kill him! Kill him!" I gave Lu Yang a look. His blade came down, and Su Fei's head rolled. Those Lu brothers were growing on me. Ambitious, sharp, decisive. No parents to answer to, and completely loyal. Good material. I addressed the crowd. "Starting today, I'm recruiting 50 workers to build defenses at Oxmang Mountain Pass. Adult men get 1 pound of millet per day. Women and anyone over 13 get 8 ounces. People nearly wept with joy. 1 pound of millet was worth 10 copper coins, double what they'd earned doing heavy labor in the city. Volunteers surged forward. I raised my voice over the noise. "Let me be clear. If I catch a single person slacking, nobody gets paid, and next time the Wuwan come, I won't protect you. This grain comes out of my own pocket. It's for the safety of both our villages. We understand." "Thank you, squad leader. We'll work hard." I left Lu Yang and Lu Hu in charge and had the workers bring their own tools to Oxmang Pass. Dig trenches, plant sharpened stakes, cover them with grass. The brothers memorized every instruction. Within the hour, 50 people were marching north. I took Zhao Liang and headed back to Qishan, then gathered 20-odd strong men with carts and rode for Wuchuan City to buy grain. The trenches were crucial. Wuwan cavalry rely on speed and mobility. The old Great Wall the founding emperor built along the border had crumbled after 100 years of neglect. Even stray dogs could walk over it. Last time I'd killed those 3 riders only because they were overconfident and didn't try to flee. On open ground, I couldn't chase down mounted enemies. Fortifications were the only reliable defense. Paying villagers to build them served 3 purposes at once. It fed people, it strengthened my authority, and it started breaking the myth that the Wuwan were invincible. If I got lucky and killed a few more raiders, the bounties would pay for everything and then some. My only problem was not having enough money, men, or weapons. In the city, buying 3,000 pounds of grain in one go turned heads. People stared. I was new and spending big. That kind of thing attracts predators. But I wanted them to come. I was short on weapons and itching for trouble. I had the villagers push the carts openly, making no effort to hide what we were carrying. Sure enough, halfway home, about a dozen masked men with swords blocked the road. Their leader opened his mouth with the classic bandit greeting. This mountain belongs to. I couldn't help laughing. These idiots actually showed up. Skip the speech, I called out. However many you brought, call them all out at once. The bandits stared at us, confused. They looked at my villagers expecting to see fear, but instead found something strange. Every single one of them was grinning. Not nervously. They were looking at the bandits the way you'd look at dead men. My guys sat down on their carts to rest, settling in like an audience at a show. Their squad leader had killed 3 elite Wuhan cavalry single-handedly. A handful of highway robbers. Entertainment. The bandit leader spat on the ground. You cocky little. Drop the grain and run, and maybe we'll let you live. His men tried to look threatening, baring their teeth and waving their swords. Then they noticed my villagers were still smiling. Everyone was smiling, including me. A wave of unease washed over them. I checked the surroundings. No hidden ambush. Then dismounted, drew my broadsword, and walked toward them. Hand over everything valuable. Drop your weapons. Do that, and I might let you live. The bandits rubbed their eyes in disbelief. Every single one of them said the same thing at the exact same time. What? I walked right up to the bandits. Are you all deaf? Which one of you is the leader? The big one stepped forward. Boys, we got a fool today. Get him. He swung his blade at me. I blocked it easily and thrust my sword at his chest. He'd never seen anyone move this fast. Instead of dodging, he went for a desperate trade, took my blade in the chest to get one last swing at my head. I'll give him credit for guts. But guts don't beat 15 years of daily training. I twisted aside, and my sword sank into his heart. His eyes bulged, bloodshot, and he crumpled. The rest of them panicked. Their leader had died in a few heartbeats. They threw down their weapons and screamed surrender, then tried to run. I pulled my bow and dropped the fastest one. Anyone else runs, they die. They froze, shaking like leaves. These men murdered travelers for a living, but the moment death came for them, they were the biggest cowards alive. One opened his mouth to beg for mercy. My arrow went through his throat before he finished the sentence. Nobody dared speak after that. I questioned them one by one about their hideout. Each time I got my answer, I killed the one who'd talked and asked the next man to confirm. By the end, only one was left alive. Take me to your camp. I split my people. Half came with me up the mountain. Half stayed with Zhao Liang to guard the grain carts. The last bandit led me through winding mountain trails to a clearing at the top. A few shacks sat in the open. I told him to lure the others out if he wanted to live. He walked up to the main shack and called out that the boss wanted help carrying grain. But the second in command wasn't stupid. He saw through the lie instantly, figured something had gone wrong, and stabbed the messenger in the back. Then he told his men to grab their valuables and run. They pulled up a floorboard and hauled out a chest. When they cracked it open, the room lit up. It was packed with high-quality government silver. They were so busy stuffing silver into bags that they didn't notice me slip inside. I killed the 2 nearest men before anyone reacted. The rest barely had time to scream. In under a minute, everyone was dead except the second in command, who backed himself into a corner. Take the silver and let me go, he begged. Tell me where you got government silver. We robbed it. Don't insult me. Trash like you couldn't rob a government convoy. You have 3 seconds. 1. 2. We traded for it. Salt and iron. We sold them to the Wuhan. That hit me like a punch. I'd already noticed that the Wuhan soldiers carried weapons sharper than our own armies. Now I knew why. Someone on our side was selling iron to the enemy. The border garrison was rotten to the bone. Who's your backer? A gang of mountain rats doesn't run an arms trade alone. You won't believe me. It's Commander Zhou Taishan himself, Zhou Taishan again. The man who'd played the noble father in front of everyone was secretly selling weapons to the enemy that was slaughtering his own people. I kept my face calm. You dare slander the commander? Tell me the truth, or I'll end you right now. He thought I'd let my guard down and lunged with a hidden dagger. I caught the blade on my sword, twisted, and sliced through the tendons in his wrist. The knife clattered to the floor. He collapsed, crawling at my feet. I'm telling the truth. We're not real bandits. We're Zhou family servants. We run the operation on a schedule and hand the silver over to him. This chest is what he hasn't collected yet. I demanded proof. The second in command pulled out a token from his pocket, engraved with the character, Zhou. I turned it over in my hand. It was heavy. I pried at the edge and found solid gold underneath. Just a household token, and it was pure gold. Zhou Taishan was swimming in money. A mere commander running salt and iron to the Wuwan couldn't do it alone. His superiors had to be involved too. And if just one city was this corrupt, what about the entire northern border? I didn't want to think about it, but the picture was clear. The Wuwan had terrorized the frontier for 100 years because people on our side were helping them, getting rich off the blood of their own countrymen. The second-in-command tried to buddy up with me, offering to let me keep the silver and cover it up with a story about the boss running off with the money. I played along, praised his cleverness, patted his shoulder. Then I put my dagger through his throat. "You think you're on my side?" I spat on his corpse. Scum. The chest held about 230 taels of silver, enough to build a real fighting force and feed the workers at both villages. But I couldn't let anyone know where it came from. If Zhou Taishan found out I'd raided his operation, I'd have a war on two fronts. I still needed to kill Wu Wan for military promotions. It wasn't time to make an enemy of him yet. I called in the villagers who'd come with me. They nearly collapsed when they saw the bodies. I pointed at the silver. "See this? Want some?" Their fear turned to hunger the moment they saw the money. But they knew they hadn't earned it. They swallowed hard and shook their heads. "It's all yours, squad leader." I asked Huating, an old hunting buddy and the best fighter among them, what he thought. He said the same thing. It was mine. "Good. Carry this chest to my house for safekeeping. It's military funds now. Each of you come collect 100 pounds of grain tonight." Their faces lit up. They bowed and thanked me. I knew that threats alone don't buy loyalty. You need to reward people generously if you want them to follow you. I had them bundle the silver and weapons so nothing looked suspicious, then went to check the remaining shacks. The last hut was set back behind the hilltop. When I got close, I heard faint sounds inside. I kicked the door open and gagged. The stench of rot and decay hit me like a wall. Inside were over a dozen women, naked, lying on a filthy shared bed. They shielded their eyes from the sudden light, then saw me standing in the doorway and started crawling toward me on their knees, begging, "Please, take us away." They called out who they were: a blacksmith's daughter, a bun seller's wife, a wealthy merchant's child. I looked at their bodies and my stomach churned. Every one of them was covered in red splotches. Their legs were raw with disease. The bandits had destroyed them completely. I clenched my fists. Animals. A woman in the corner was barely alive. Her companions helped her sit up. She spoke in a thin whisper. "Sir, I've been here 6 months. My body is ruined. I won't trouble you to take me. But if you ever pass through He family village north of the city, could you tell my people that He Hua married far away and is doing well?" She had a filthy face, but the clearest eyes I'd ever seen. She couldn't have been older than 18. I couldn't refuse her. "I promise," she smiled. A pure, gentle smile with small dimples, and closed her eyes. She was gone. She'd known she was dying. The disease had gone too far. In truth, none of them could be saved. The infections they carried were untreatable with anything available in this era. Taking them to a city would only spread plague and reveal that I'd been here. The other women wept over He Hua's body, mourning her and themselves. Huating and the others arrived and saw the scene. Their eyes burned with rage. I hardened my heart and told the women the truth. "I can't take you with me. You're too sick to travel far. But every bandit on this mountain is dead. They've paid for what they did." The crying stopped. They looked at me with gratitude. One of them pressed a cloth into my hand, a list of their names. "Please tell our families the same thing. Tell them we married into distant villages. That's all we ask." "I will. And one last thing. Give us a quick death. We don't want to waste away like He Hua." "Please." Huating stepped forward, his voice rough. "Squad leader, let us handle this. Giving them peace is the least we can do." The women bowed to him and the others. "Thank you, brothers. This was the hardest decision I'd faced since arriving in this world. I couldn't bring myself to do it. But giving those women a quick end was the kindest thing left." I walked out and stood at the cliff's edge while the sounds carried from behind me. I gripped the cloth with their names and screamed into the endless forest below. "I will make you all pay." Huating came up behind me. "It's done, squad leader. We can go." I couldn't look at him. "Thank you." He nodded silently and led the men down the mountain. I forced myself to recover. There was too much to do. Zhou Taishan's betrayal, selling iron to the Wuwan, running bandits as a side business. I'd settle that account when the time was right. Nobody on the way home dared ask what happened up there. The men who'd gone up kept their mouths shut. The men who'd stayed down didn't push. Back in the village, I cleared out the small house next to mine. My father had built it as a spare for when I'd eventually marry, and turned it into a grain storehouse. I sent Zhao Liang with 50 men to join the trench digging at Oxmang Pass. Quishan villagers lined up eagerly once they heard there was food for work. After everyone left, Huating's group handed over the 230 taels and took their 100 pounds of grain each. I pulled Huating aside. The 7 men who went up that mountain, make sure every one of them keeps quiet. Understood. From now on, you patrol between the 2 villages. If anything happens, fire a signal arrow immediately. 1 string of coins a month. Thank you, sir. At home, Yushi saw through me instantly. She pressed her fingers to my temples and asked what was wrong. After last night, there were no walls between us anymore. I told her everything. The bandits, the silver, Zhou Taishan's secret trade with the Wuwan. Her hands shook with rage. Her teeth ground together. When my father was alive, he tried to put the crown prince on the throne so they could clean up the border military. But the prince was too honest. The 6th prince stole the throne instead. What's your plan? She asked. I stared out the window. The army is useless. The emperor is rotten. I'll replace them both. Even a general's daughter gasped at that. Whatever you do, I'm with you, she said. But I don't think we should move against Zhou Taishan yet. We're too weak, less than 10 untrained men. The only real fighter is you. We need to use your skills to earn military merit, climb the ranks, and build strength gradually. The work for grain program you started was brilliant. It keeps the young men busy, feeds their families, and wins their loyalty. All at once, I was thrilled. Her thinking matched mine perfectly. I almost grabbed her, then remembered I'd touched things on that mountain, and stopped myself. I scrubbed my hands raw with ash and water before kissing her forehead. You're going to be the best partner I could ask for. She blushed bright red. Don't praise me like that. I'm not used to it. I pulled her close and we fooled around for a while, laughing, chasing each other around the room. The darkness from the mountain lifted. Then I brought up something that had been bothering me. After the defenses are built, I want to start training the workers as soldiers. But I don't know spear techniques. Her eyes sparkled. I do. How? Your father wouldn't let you train, she grinned. He didn't let me practice. But I memorized every move he taught my brothers. I forgot to mention, I have a photographic memory. I thought about the Allison she'd reproduced perfectly from watching me once. I went and checked her batch, nearly identical to mine. She wasn't exaggerating. I need you, I said. She flushed again. Tonight, I need your spear techniques. Tomorrow morning then. Go to your work. You're burning up. She wriggled free, and we played chase like kids until Shinger walked in carrying firewood and killed the mood. I told her to take some grain home, then rode out to inspect the trenches. At Oxmang Pass, I spotted the workers resting from a distance. They scrambled back to their shovels the second they saw me coming. Lu Yang and Nie Yun ran over, embarrassed. They were tired, so I gave them a short break. I checked the progress. They'd actually dug faster than I'd expected. I laughed. People aren't oxen. If they're tired, let them rest. As long as nobody's faking it, we're fine. Relief washed over the crowd. Under any other boss, they'd have been whipped raw for sitting down. Thank you, sir. They swung their shovels with twice the energy. I walked along the trench line, inspecting the work, and then I felt it. The unmistakable vibration of hoofbeats through the ground. I shouted at the top of my lungs. Everyone into the trenches. Prepare to fight Wuwan. Too late. It was all too late. Even with my reflexes, even shouting the warning the instant I felt those hoofbeats, people still died. Arrows came raining down and cut through workers before they could move. I threw myself into the half-dug trench, barely knee-deep after only half a day of digging. I'd expected the Wuwan to come. I didn't expect them this soon. About 10 riders, and these ones were smarter than the last group. They'd been watching the workers, waiting for me to show up before attacking. If they broke through Oxmang Pass, it was open flatland behind us. Nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. Everyone with a weapon, stay and fight. I pulled my bow and put an arrow through the first rider's throat. Then another. 2 down. But they were already on top of us. The unfinished trench couldn't stop cavalry. They jumped right over it and started cutting down villagers behind us, screaming everywhere. 3 riders surrounded me, slashing from above. Fighting mounted enemies on foot is a nightmare. They have reach, speed, height. If I were anyone else, that first charge would have killed me. I blocked a slash aimed at my neck. used the downward force to roll under a horse, and sliced through its front legs as I passed beneath. The rider crashed to the ground, and I opened his throat before he could stand. The other two were stunned. "Who are you? Give us your name," I answered with my blade. I launched myself upward like a human spear and brought my sword crashing down on one of them. The impact split his weapon in half and cleaved into his skull. He died staring at the blade in disbelief. He'd never imagined anyone in Yu's army could cut through steel. The last one screamed to his companions in their language. All the remaining riders abandoned the fleeing villagers and turned on me, eyes red with fury. They saw their dead comrades at my feet. "You dare kill our noble Wuan warriors." "Noble? Don't make me laugh." While they were yelling, my bowstring sang again. The one who'd called for help dropped dead. That drove them insane. All of them flattened against their horses' necks, using the animals as shields, and charged me as a group. When they got close, they dismounted together. They decided to fight me on foot. I threw aside my bow and met them with my sword. One of them wore chainmail and carried a massive battle axe. He blocked my strike and sneered. "Good moves, but bad brains. Your people all ran. Why stay and die alone?" I didn't need to look behind me. I knew the villagers had scattered, but my will doesn't bend. Then a voice cut through the chaos. "The squad leader is fighting outnumbered, and you cowards are running." Nie Yun, Lu Yong, and Lu, who climbed out of the trench. They'd taken down one rider together. All three were bleeding, but something in their eyes had changed. They'd crossed a line and come out harder on the other side. The fleeing villagers stopped. They didn't come back to fight, but they stopped running. They watched from a distance. The three boys charged in despite their wounds. "We're here, sir." I laughed. "Good. Welcome to the fight." I pressed forward. My blade found angles nobody expected. I flicked a spear out of one man's hands and carved a deep gash across his chest, scraping bone. The sound of steel on ribs made everyone's teeth ache. The chainmail warrior roared and swung his axe in a wide arc at my head. Even with my wrist strength, I couldn't block that kind of force directly. I threw every muscle into dodging. The axe whistled past my ear. He didn't stop. He kept spinning, using momentum to swing again and again in circles, like a human tornado. Nobody could get close. Lu Yong threw his sword at the man, and it bounced off the spinning axe like a toy. Nie Yun grabbed my bow and tried to help, but the fighters were too close together. He couldn't get a clean shot. I stayed in the eye of the storm, calm as ice, watching for the opening. On the sixth rotation, I felt it, a fraction of slowness. He was tiring. His chainmail covered everything except his face. I couldn't cut tendons or joints. The only target was a palm-sized window around his eyes and nose, and he guarded it well. I timed my move and kicked his hands right at the base of the axe handle, the tiger's mouth grip. The axe flew from his grasp and clattered away. Without his weapon, he was a crocodile with no teeth. He stared at me in shock. "You're this skilled. You must hold high rank in Yu's army. If I capture you, I'll get promoted." I spat. "You think rank means fighting ability? You foreigners really don't understand our culture." He pulled two chains from his belt and whipped them backward, driving Lu Yong and the others away. "One-on-one," he said. "Just you and me. Do you dare?" Too slow. Everyone was too slow. Even though I shouted the warning the instant I felt the hoofbeats, arrows were already falling. Workers dropped before they could take a single step. I threw myself into the trench, not even knee-deep yet, barely enough to crouch in. I'd known the Wuan would come, but not this fast. About 10 riders, and these were clever. They'd been watching the workers all along, waiting for me to arrive before they struck. If they got past this pass, it was flat open ground behind us. A slaughter. Anyone with a weapon, stand and fight. I drew my bow and dropped the first rider with a throat shot. Then a second, but they were already on us. The unfinished trench was useless. The horses cleared it easily and started cutting through workers on the other side. Screaming everywhere. 3 riders boxed me in, slashing from horseback. Fighting on foot against mounted enemies is pure hell. They have every advantage. I blocked a strike at my neck, rode the force downward into a roll, and passed under a horse's belly. My blade took its front legs off as I slid through. The rider hit the ground, and I opened his throat before he landed. I launched myself upward and split the next man's sword in half along with his skull. Then I shot the one calling for reinforcements while they were distracted. That drove them berserk. All remaining riders charged together, using their horses as shields. When they got close, they dismounted as a group. They wanted me on the ground where numbers mattered. One of them wore chainmail and carried a battle axe the size of my torso. He blocked my first strike and laughed. Good moves, bad brains. Your people all ran. Why die alone? He was right. I didn't need to look. The villagers had scattered. But my will doesn't break. Then Nie Yun's voice tore through the noise. The squad leader is fighting alone, and you cowards run. He, Lu Yang, and Lu, who climbed out of the trench, bloodied, wounded, but transformed. They'd killed a rider together. Their eyes had changed. They weren't boys anymore. The fleeing villagers stopped. They didn't come back to fight, but they stopped. We're with you, sir. I laughed out loud. Welcome. I pressed the attack. My blade found impossible angles, disarmed one man, and carved a gash across his chest so deep it scraped bone. The chainmail giant roared and swung his axe in a wide circle at my head. No amount of skill lets you block that kind of raw power. I dodged by inches. He kept spinning, using momentum, around and around like a wind-powered death machine. Nobody could get near him. Lu Yang threw his sword at the man. It bounced off like a twig. I stayed inside the storm, watching, counting rotations. On the sixth spin, I felt it, a tiny hesitation. He was tiring. I kicked the axe right out of his grip at the weakest point of his hold. It clattered away. You must be high-ranked to fight like this, he said. Capturing you would earn me a promotion. You think rank equals fighting skill? You really don't understand us. He pulled 2 iron chains from his belt and whipped them in circles, driving my men back. 1-on-1. You and me. Do you dare? The villagers who'd run earlier had crept back, gripping hoes and shovels. Kill him, squad leader. I noted that Zhao Liang was hiding among the civilians. Useless. His mother had been murdered by the Wuan, and he still couldn't find his spine. Some people are just mud. You can't build a wall from them. The chainmail warrior swung both chains at my head. I read his shoulder movement and was already moving before the iron left his hands. The only way to beat a long-range weapon with a short blade is to get inside its reach. I dodged and weaved through attack after attack, constantly closing distance. He couldn't track me. My footwork was something he'd never seen. Unpredictable, constantly shifting direction. He was bigger, stronger, but I was 5 times more agile. One chain wrapped around my sword. His other hand wound its chain around his fist and threw a punch at my skull. I let go of the blade, slipped sideways using Black Dragon 18. The Dragon Maiden's mirror technique. Grabbed his wrist above the knuckles, locked his arm with my elbow, swept his legs, and drove my shoulder into his chest. He crashed like a falling tree. In the split second he was on the ground, I threw myself on top and locked him in a cross choke, legs pinning both his arms, both my arms crushing his neck. This hold is devastating. A normal man blacks out in 5 seconds, dies in 10. No matter how big you are, once it's locked, it's over. He thrashed like a wild animal, throwing up clouds of dust. My arms didn't budge. Nie Yun was panicking. Why is the squad leader wrestling? He's giving up his speed advantage. Lu Yang shook his head. The squad leader knows what he's doing. They crept closer with drawn swords, ready to jump in if something went wrong. Then it was over. The giant stopped moving. But I didn't let go. Squad leader, he's dead. No, something's wrong. He's exhausted. Pull them apart. The villagers rushed in, pried my arms open, laid me on the ground. Someone brought water. Someone piled firewood for warmth. Others formed a circle around me to block the wind. My body had given out. 2 days of extreme combat on a malnourished, underfed frame had drained me completely. This had never happened in my old life. But this body was weak, skin and bones, running on fumes. I lay there forcing myself to breathe until I could finally open my eyes. The first thing I saw was Lu Yang, Lu Hu, and Nie Yun standing over me with tears running down their faces. Something warm stirred in my chest. It felt like the old days, brothers in arms, watching each other's backs. I pushed myself up. You 3 did well today. Lu Hu, the youngest, burst into tears. Sir, you saved all of us. And the first thing you say is to praise us? I don't deserve it. I squeezed his shoulder. If you fought the Wuan, you're a man. That's more than I can say for certain gutless cowards who only know how to run. I said it loud enough for every male in earshot. Faces went red all around. Lu Yang, Lu Hu, take the Wuan heads to the city on horseback. Collect our military bounty. Yes, sir. I raised my voice. Everyone else, back to digging. Families of anyone killed in today's attack can come to Quishan village and collect 50 pounds of grain from me. Dead silence. Then whispers of disbelief. Compensation for people killed by the Wuwan? That's never happened. Not in the entire history of DU. I didn't love spending the money, but winning hearts was worth every grain. Every great leader in history did the same thing. I had to prove I was different from every other officer these people had ever known. That's how you build something worth following. The entire crowd dropped to their knees. What a righteous man. The squad leader truly cares for his people. I called back Lu Yang and the others. They couldn't ride horses, and this needed to be done fast. I'd go myself. Nie Yun and Lu Yang chopped off the 9 Wuwan heads while the villagers strung them together with rope and loaded them onto my horse. I left Nie Yun to guard the pass, sent the Lu brothers back to distribute grain to the workers, then rode hard for Wuchuan City with a string of bloody heads bouncing behind me. Villagers along the road covered their mouths in horror when they saw me pass. At the south gate, the guards spotted me from a distance, a blood-soaked rider carrying a load of severed heads. They raised their spears. Halt. One more step and you die. I reined in just in time. I'm squad leader Lu Tu. These are Wuwan heads. I'm here to collect my bounty. The gate captain, Zhou Tong, was Zhou Taishan's distant nephew. Of course he was. The man had his family planted everywhere. Zhou Tong recognized me and sneered. You? A nobody squad leader killed Wuwan soldiers? I don't think so. I held up the heads. Open your eyes and look. He examined them. Blonde hair, blue eyes, hooked noses. Unmistakably Wuwan. His face twitched with shock. Killing nearly 10 armored Wuwan riders would normally require hundreds of elite troops. But he wasn't about to let me through. These are obviously fakes. You dressed up some corpses to cheat the system. I've seen your type before. I flashed my badge. I'm not arguing with you. I'll submit them to the commandant directly. He can verify them himself. I rode straight at the line of guards and shouted, "Move." My patience was gone. If I'd sent Lu Yang instead, these vultures would have stolen the credit or had the boys beaten. Coming myself was the right call. The guards saw me, drenched in blood, eyes still burning with killing intent, and stepped aside without waiting for orders. Zhou Tong was furious, but smart enough not to physically block me. As I passed, I looked down at him. My name is Lu Tu. Remember it. This might be the last conversation we ever have. I nudged my horse forward and knocked him stumbling. Behind me, I heard him ordering a soldier to run to Zhou Taishan's estate with a full report. I wasn't going to Zhou Taishan. That would be walking into the enemy's mouth. He was my direct superior, sure, but he'd made his hostility clear. Handing him 9 Wuwan heads would be begging to have my credit stolen. Instead, I rode straight for the commandant's residence, the highest authority in Wuchuan. If even the commandant blocked me, then this entire path to advancement was dead and I'd need a different strategy. At the commandant's gates, I dismounted well in advance. House rules required everyone to approach on foot and unarmed. The guards tensed when they saw my blood-covered appearance and grabbed their weapons. Who are you? State your business. I showed my badge. Squad leader Lu Tuesday. I'm here to claim military merit. These are Wuwan cavalry I killed. The guards checked the heads, confirmed they were genuine Wuwan, and their eyes went wide with excitement. You killed all of these? I didn't take all the credit. Some were killed by my soldiers. We took heavy casualties. They waved that off. Casualties don't matter. If you killed Wuwan, you're a real man. Wait here. I'll report this. Their attitude was night and day compared to Zhou Tong's gate. I bowed to them gratefully. A crowd gathered fast. Someone in the street shouted, "A man killed a whole squad of Wuwan." People poured in from everywhere, craning their necks to see the heads and whispering about me. Look at him, a real warrior. Killed this many by himself. Wait, isn't that the guy from the wife selection? The one who picked the skinny girl everyone laughed at. It is him. We thought he'd starve to death, and now he's killing Wuwan cavalry. A few matchmakers pushed through the crowd, bowing. Young hero, have you considered taking a concubine? I declined politely. I live on the edge of a blade every day. Not the right time. They sighed with disappointment. Handsome, brave, and humble. Quite the catch, apparently. The guard came back grinning. The commandant wants to see you. Come in. I followed the guard inside, carrying the string of heads. The commandant's estate was nothing like the filthy, broken-down city outside. gardens, pavilions, carved pillars. It looked like a southern nobleman's mansion. While people in Wuchuan ate one meal a day, these officers lived in luxury. I kept my face blank. They brought me to a training yard where a young officer sat in a high-back chair with his eyes closed. This was Cloud AO, the deputy commander. He opened his eyes and stared at the heads as they were laid out on the ground. His men confirmed 9 Wuwan cavalry, including one chainmail warrior with a flame tattoo on his face, a mark of high status in the Wuwan tribe. Tell me how you killed them. I told him straight. 8 killed by me, 1 by my soldiers, witnessed by villagers from both villages. He slammed the armrest. You dare lie to my face. I've been stationed in Wuchuan for 10 years and never seen one man take on 10 riders. My anger flared. This entire military was rotten from top to bottom. Every word is true. Still lying. Prove it. He waved his hand, and a young officer in red robes stepped out, twirling a shiny silver spear. This is Bianwei, our martial arts champion. Bianwei declared that unless I could survive 10 moves against him barehanded, my military claims would be considered fraudulent. I laughed, loud, booming laughter that echoed through the yard and made everyone flinch, including Cloud AO. Then I looked at the champion with contempt. If you're so talented, go kill the same Wuhan soldiers and bring back their heads. Pointing your weapon at your own people proves nothing. Bianwei had won a tournament last month, beating 36 fighters in a row. He was Wuchuan's golden boy. Nobody talked to him like this. For that insult alone, I'll put 3 holes in you, he attacked. No weapon was given to me. I could only dodge. A guard who'd brought me in spoke up. General, this isn't fair, Cloud AO glared at him. He claims to have killed 9 Wuhan riders, including a chainmail warrior. Fighting our champion unarmed sounds perfectly fair to me, but the spear is the king of weapons. Even swordsmen struggle against it, let alone a barehanded. Silence. Since when do guards make my decisions? If you object, take his place. I heard every word while dodging Bianwei's strikes. My fury was building to a breaking point. They weren't testing me. They were trying to break me. Bianwei was genuinely skilled. His spear work was precise and powerful. I couldn't dodge everything. I had to block one heavy strike with my forearms. Using the impact's momentum, I rolled toward a guard and ripped the saber from his belt. I shouted, Cloud AO, you've pushed too far. I came here after killing enemies to claim what I earned. You refused to honor it and forced me to fight unarmed against a weapon. Don't blame me for what happens next. I made my decision. Forget the champion. I was going straight for Cloud AO. Full speed. If this whole system was going to cheat me, I'd take the deputy commander down and disappear with Yushi. We could start over somewhere else. But one thing was certain. I was done bowing. I exploded past Bianwei's thrust and charged directly at Cloud AO. An arrow came out of nowhere and struck my blade, stopping me in my tracks. How dare you? A middle-aged man in golden armor strode into the yard, bow in hand, moving with the authority of a tiger. Every person in the yard dropped to one knee instantly. Greetings, Commandant. This was Cloud Tian, the Commandant of Wuchuan, the highest military authority in the region. And clearly, Cloud AO's father. More family connections. This whole place ran on nepotism. Cloud Tian walked up to his terrified son, drew a dagger, and stabbed him in the thigh without a word. Blood sprayed everywhere. Cloud AO's face went white with shock, but he didn't dare move. Father, I was wrong. Cloud Tian punched him in the stomach so hard he flew 3 meters and crashed into the dirt. In the military, you address me by rank. How many times have I told you? Do you understand what you've done? You attacked a man who killed 9 Wuhan cavalry. If word gets out, no soldier will ever risk his life for this garrison again. I'd expected the same fake performance Zhou Taishan had given me. But this was real. That dagger thrust had come within an inch of crippling his son permanently. Cloud Tian wasn't acting. Still, I kept my guard up. Rebellion was already decided in my heart. Nothing would change that now. Cloud Tian kept going. He kicked his son's leg, and the crack of breaking bone echoed across the yard. Cloud AO screamed and clutched his right leg, rolling on the ground. Nobody dared intervene. They were clearly used to this. Cloud Tian waved his hand. Strip this waste of his military rank. Demote him to commoner status. Send him to the countryside to heal. Once recovered, he is permanently banned from Wuchuan. Cloud AO was carried away groaning. I was about to explain my situation when Cloud Tian turned on his own guards with an icy glare. You all just watched him abuse a hero and did nothing. Nobody dared breathe. Cut a finger. Every guard in the yard drew their blades and brought them down on their own hands without hesitation. The sound of snapping bone and hissing breath filled the air. I was the victim here, so nobody expected me to participate, but if they had, I would have taken Cloud Tian hostage on the spot. When the guards held up their severed fingers, I noticed most of them were already missing others. Some had 8 fingers left. Some had only 4, barely enough to grip a sword. This was how Cloud Tian ran discipline. Wuchuan's military culture kept finding new ways to shock me. Cloud Tian finally looked at me. What's your name? Lu Tu, sir. You're saying you killed all these Wuan riders? Yes. You can send people to verify. He cracked a smile. I saw your moves just now. Not bad. I exhaled. Thank you for your fairness. Then a voice came screaming from the gate. Young Master Cloud. Don't give him the military credit. Zhou Yabing burst into the yard and froze when he saw me standing there. His face went white. He dropped to his knees instantly. Cloud Tian looked at him like he was an insect. You came to tell my son not to reward Lu Tu. No. I was just joking. Go home. Tell your father personally that you are under house arrest for 1 year and stripped of all military positions. Zhou Yabing's face dripped with sweat. He saw the blood on the ground, understood exactly what had happened here, and crawled out of the estate on his hands and knees. He knew he was lucky to leave alive. Cloud Tian pulled out a wooden badge carved with the character 4, squad leader, but 1 rank higher than mine. Lu Tu, for outstanding military achievement, you are promoted to corporal. You receive 50 sets of military equipment, 5 war horses, and 100 taels of silver. Thank you, Commandant. He called out 2 names. Sun Quan, Sun Meng. 2 of the guards who'd just cut off their own fingers stepped forward. Sir, you're both promoted to squad leaders, assigned under Lu Tu's command. Yes, sir. Cloud Tian waved his hand and left without another word. The other guards wrapped their bleeding stumps with cloth strips and followed him out. I was left with the Sun brothers, the same 2 who'd been friendly at the gate earlier. My impression of them was decent. I'll be counting on you both. The honor is ours, serving under a hero like you. I noticed their fingers were still bleeding badly. I tore strips from my own clothes and started bandaging them myself. Sun Ming jerked back in surprise. Sir, I can do it myself. I glared at him. With 1 hand? You're my soldier now. Stand still. He hesitated, but let me work. I knew Cloud Tian had planted them to spy on me, but I wasn't worried. These men had spent 3 years in a military where nobody showed them a shred of warmth. When their young new commander knelt down and wrapped their wounds with his own cloth, something shifted behind their eyes. They weren't used to being treated like human beings. Looking at their hands, I noticed the cuts were clean and precise, severed at the base joint with surgical accuracy. These 2 were expert swordsmen, and they'd shown 0 hesitation in mutilating themselves. That meant they'd seen what happened to men who flinched. Their loyalty to Cloud Tian was built on terror, not love. Terror can be replaced. A guard brought the supplies, 100 taels of silver and a cart loaded with leather chest armor. The craftsmanship was basic, but for a startup army, anything beats nothing. 5 war horses stood ready. I pinched off about 2 taels of silver from an ingot with my bare fingers and handed it to the guard. Buy yourself and the boys a drink. His eyes went wide, impressed by the finger strength as much as the generosity. He pocketed the silver smoothly. Everything's been counted and verified, sir. I handed the horses to the Sun brothers, and we headed home. It took about an hour to reach Quishan village. Smoke rose from every chimney. Sun Ming stared. Every household has food for dinner. I didn't hide anything. I used the silver from my first reward to buy grain. The villagers dig trenches for me, and I pay them in food. The brothers exchanged a look of disbelief. Forget a small village. Even inside Wuchuan City, most people ate once a day. 2 meals was a luxury. And here was an officer who'd spent his own reward money on fortifications and actually paid his workers as promised. It was beyond anything they'd ever seen. The moment we entered the village, people came running. Children, old folks, everyone shouting and waving. The squad leader is back? I smiled to myself. They didn't know yet. It was corporal now. Before the cart even stopped, village women came running to help unload supplies into the storehouse. Our squad leader is amazing, Killed a bunch more Wuwan today. With him protecting us, we finally have peaceful days. He's our whole sky. The Sun brothers couldn't believe what they were seeing. They'd been stationed around Wuchuan for years, including near Quishan village. The old Quishan was the same miserable place as everywhere else. Neighbors fighting each other with machetes over scraps. Now everyone was smiling, helping, talking like a real community. A few days under my command, and the whole village had transformed. I handed the horses to Huating. You and Wu Peng manage all the war horses from now on. We've got 13 captured Wuan horses, plus these 5 new ones. Feed them well. Huating's face lit up like a kid's. He stroked the horse's head lovingly. I'll have them fat and strong, sir. Sun Meng spoke up with a grin. Don't call him squad leader anymore. It's corporal now. Everyone froze. Then cheers erupted. Our leader got promoted again. Multiple ranks. Of course he did. He's killed over a dozen Wuan riders. Corporal is too low. He should be a commander living in a mansion. The Sun brothers knew the villagers weren't exaggerating. With my military record, I should have jumped 5 ranks at least. Anyone with connections would have been made a deputy general. Instead, I got corporal and 2 babysitters assigned to watch me. But when they looked over at me, I was rolling up my sleeves and hauling grain sacks alongside the villagers. No airs whatsoever. They moved to help. I stopped them. Sun Ming, Sun Quang, don't lift anything. Your fingers need to heal. They froze, confused. They couldn't tell if I genuinely cared about them or if this was a performance for the crowd. They put the bags down. After the work was done, I brought them home and had Yushi bring out the garlic extract. Sun Quang blurted out, "Aren't you the crippled woman from the market?" Sun Ming smacked the back of his brother's head. "That's the corporal's wife. Watch your mouth." Yushi didn't ask questions. She just handed me the medicine. I told the brothers to unwrap their stumps and apply it. "This will help. You'll heal faster." I set them up in an empty house. A family had been wiped out in the raid, so there was space. It happened to be right next to the storehouse. I put them in charge of guarding our supplies, armor, weapons, and most importantly, grain. They stared at me, struggling to speak. Then Sun Quang said, his voice cracking, "Sir, we were sent here to spy on you. I know, you know? And you still bandaged our wounds, gave us medicine, and trusted us with the most important things in the village? Aren't you afraid we'll steal everything?" I smiled. "If I use people, I trust them. If I can't trust them, I don't use them. You're with me now. That makes you brothers. What's the point of following me if there's no trust?" Their eyes went wide. "Thank you for believing in us. We'll do our duty, and don't worry about reporting to Cloud Tian. Tell him whatever you need to tell him. I don't mind. You don't even care about that?" I patted their shoulders. "If you don't report, he'll punish you again. Rest tomorrow morning. Don't come to the pass with your hands like that." I walked away. Behind me, Sun Quang tilted his head back, rubbing his eyes. "Damn wind and dust," he muttered. Sun Ming's voice was thick. "Brother, I think we've finally found someone worth following." Lu Yang and Lu, who came by with their progress report on the trenches. After today's attack, everyone was digging with real purpose. No more slacking. "Sir, is it true you're a corporal now?" "It is. We're still short on people, but keep working hard. Someday I'll make you both squad leaders with proper pay and find you good wives." Lu Hu piped up, "I don't want a pretty wife. I want a fat one." I burst out laughing. "Kid, you've got excellent taste." I gave them medicine for their wounds and sent them off. Nie Yun was holding down Songshan village. Finally home. I was more exhausted than the previous 2 days combined. That chainmail warrior had been a real challenge. Even with everything I had, it took all my strength to bring him down. A clear sign my body was nowhere near peak condition. Yushi brought me meat soup and rubbed my shoulders. "I heard what happened today. It was too dangerous." I patted her hand. "Battle is always dangerous. I had it under control. I also heard you collapsed from exhaustion. My mother told me it happened to my father once. He nearly died." I tensed up. She was right. I'd pushed this underfed body past its breaking point. "But don't worry," she whispered, leaning close to my ear, her cheeks turning pink. "My mother taught me a special bedroom technique. She said that whenever father came home drained after a big battle, she used this method to restore his strength." I wrapped my arm around her waist. "Is that so?" Yushi blushed and slipped out of my arms to go prepare hot water for washing up. While she cleaned me up, I pulled out 80 taels of silver from my coat. "The commandant gave me 100. I'm keeping 20 for Lu Yang and Nie Yun." The rest is yours. Her eyes went huge. We'd just brought home 230 taels that morning, and now 80 more. But what shocked her wasn't the amount. It was that the first thing I did with my earnings was hand them to her. She took the money with shining eyes. I don't need anything. I'll keep it safe for you. I kissed her forehead. So you'll really do whatever I say? Yes. Then I'd like to experience that bedroom technique of yours. Wait, slow down. I scooped her up and carried her to bed. For the next 2 hours, I was a very dedicated student. And what I learned was beyond anything I'd ever imagined. Ancient knowledge is something else entirely. With Yushi guiding me through it, my exhaustion melted completely away. We didn't stop until the night watchman called the third watch, then fell asleep tangled together. Next morning I was up early as always, and I felt incredible, more energy than yesterday despite less sleep. This was what traditional medicine meant by harmony of yin and yang. It actually worked. It was amazing. After my usual Black Dragon 18 fists warm-up, I moved into the Song family's standing stance practice. Today the progress was dramatic. I held the posture for 3 full incense sticks before my legs gave out. After yesterday, I could barely manage one. A full hour of hard training, and I felt stronger than ever. Lu Yang and Lu, who showed up for duty. When they saw Yushi, they bowed stiffly. "Good morning, ma'am." She waved that off. "Call me sister-in-law. Have you eaten?" "I made porridge." "Oh, we already ate," Lu Yang started. I smacked the back of his head. "Don't lie to me. You two have never eaten breakfast in your lives. Go wash your hands and sit down." Lu, who looked confused. "Why do we need to wash our hands to eat?" Lu Yang smacked him next. "If Big Brother says wash, you wash." Yushi had only cooked enough for 2, so she gave it all to the boys. They'd never seen porridge this thick, no sand in it, seasoned with a pinch of salt. They drained bowl after bowl until they sat there rubbing their bellies with pure happiness on their faces. Yushi nudged me and whispered, "Weren't you going to give them their reward, right?" I'd almost forgotten. I pulled out 20 taels. "Yesterday you and Nie Yun killed a Wuan rider together. This is your bonus." Lu Yang pushed it back. "Big Brother, that's too much." I hardened my face. I said, "Take it. Kill enemies, get paid. That's the rule." He accepted it carefully with both hands. "I'll give half to Nie Yun. His situation is worse than ours. We only need to feed ourselves, but he's got a sick little sister." Yushi and I shared a look. These boys were starving themselves, and the first real money they'd ever earned, they wanted to split it with a friend. You can't teach that kind of character. Sun Ming's voice came from outside. "Corporal, are you home?" He started to enter, spotted Yushi, and immediately backed out. "Sorry, I didn't know your wife was here. I'll stay outside." I told Yushi I was heading out, and asked Lu Yang to stay behind to run errands. Yushi needed supplies bought in the city. Then I left with the Sun brothers. Sun Ming cleared his throat. "Sir, we've made our decision." Both brothers dropped to one knee. "We grew up as orphans. Getting into the commandant's guard was supposed to be our big break, but nobody ever treated us like human beings. You're the first person who bandaged our wounds with your own hands, gave us real medicine, and trusted us with something important. We want to follow you, truly follow you. Whatever you want us to report to the commandant, we'll report exactly that and nothing more." I honestly couldn't tell if they were being sincere or putting on a show. But either way, I had to play it through. I pulled them to their feet. "You're both older than me. No need for all this formality. We're all just trying to survive." Sun Quan stubbornly stayed down. "I know you still have doubts about us, but you saw how the commandant treats people, cutting fingers, breaking bones. How can anyone truly follow a man like that? We want to serve someone worth serving." Sun Ming nodded firmly. "We choose you, sir. From now on, we report whatever you tell us to report." I gave in. "Fine. Protect both villages alongside everyone else. And let's drop the sir, just call me brother." "Big Brother," they said in unison. "I just said you're both older than me." They started to kneel again. Must be a habit from years in the commandant's service. Kneel first, think later. "No, you're our leader. You have to be Big Brother." All right. Big Brother it is. "Now get up before the villagers think I'm making people worship me. Give us something to do, Big Brother. Missing a finger won't slow us down." The Sun brothers still had fight in them. I put them on construction duty at Oxmang Pass, replacing the Lu brothers. Huating brought 3 horses, and we rode out. Along the road, villagers heading to the worksite greeted me like some kind of celebrity. "Look, the corporal is here. What a young hero." One man said he dreamed about me leading them north to smash the Wuwan. Another said he believed I could actually do it. After all, I'd killed 8 riders single-handedly. The Sun brothers watched all of this carefully. They could see the loyalty these people had for me, and I caught them exchanging satisfied glances, glad they'd made their choice. At the construction site, I found Nie Yun already there, explaining trench design to a group of workers. I stood behind him and listened. The corporal wants us to kill Wuwan inside these trenches. We need to dig 5 more feet down and fill the bottom with sharpened wooden stakes. When their horses fall in, the riders die or get crippled. He turned and found me smiling at him. He panicked. "Sir, I was just rambling." I clapped his shoulder. "You're exactly right. That's what I had in mind. Do it." His face lit up. Nobody had ever encouraged him before. I could see real talent in this kid. He just needed guidance. I pointed at the trench. But what if a lucky Wuwan rider survives the trap and escapes? He'll warn the others. Nie Yun's eyes hardened with hatred. Then we pack the bottom so tight with thin sharp stakes that nobody who falls and walks out whole. Even chainmail can't cover every inch of skin. And without their horses, wounded men trying to crawl back through open wilderness? The wolves will finish the job before they get a mile. I laughed. You really are a genius, isn't it? Too cruel. Cruel? They slaughter our villagers. They kill unarmed women and children. Whatever they do to us, we do back tenfold. I wish I could dig these traps all the way to their king's front door. The workers erupted. Something I said had reached deep inside them. Every single person here had lost someone to the Wuwan. Family, friends, neighbors. They'd spent their whole lives running and hiding because the army couldn't protect them. But they weren't born cowards. They were men, father's sons, mother's boys, and they were sick of being hunted like animals. I hadn't planned it, but my words planted a seed of vengeance in every heart on that hillside. I pointed to a spot a mile out. We'll build 2 guard shacks there, rotating watch around the clock. The moment Wuwan riders are spotted, every able-bodied man in both villages picks up whatever he's got and comes here. I don't care if we have to use our teeth. We kill every last one of them. Yeah, kill those Wuwan bastards. 100 men raised their shovels and hoes, screaming in unison. Eyes bloodshot, veins bulging. Even the Sun brothers got swept up in it. They joined the army just to eat, but standing in the middle of 100 fired-up men, their blood ran hot too. I felt something ease inside me. Yesterday, I'd fought alone while everyone scattered. Today, they were ready to stand. I didn't blame them for running before. Years of oppression from both the Wuwan and their own corrupt officials had taught these people to forget they had spines. Their fists could do more than beat their wives. They could hold weapons. I left the Sun brothers to assist Nie Yun and surveyed the scene. Men digging with real fury, cursing the Wuwan with every swing. It reminded me of something from my old world. I'd never lived through those early revolutionary years when people had nothing but built everything with bare hands and shared purpose. But I'd always admired that spirit. And here it was, right in front of me. I wasn't setting my goals too high, one step at a time. But the immediate priority was food. I ordered Nie Yun to arrange 2 meals a day for the workers. Full portions, no rationing. Grain wasn't a problem. The landlord's warehouses in Wuchuan were stuffed with stockpiles they'd rather let rot than sell cheap. As long as I had silver, food was endless. The real strategy was taking shape in my mind. This mountain pass was the only way through from the north. Once we finished the fortifications and held this choke point, the Wuwan would walk into a kill zone every time they came. Then I'd pick 50 of the best workers, train them using modern military methods from my old life, and turn them into real soldiers. This pass wasn't just a defensive position. It was a military merit farm. Every Wuwan head meant promotion, silver, and more resources to grow stronger. The math was beautiful. Over the next 2 weeks, I split my time between supervising the construction and riding patrols across the surrounding area. I mapped out every piece of terrain within 50 miles. The fortifications were finished, trenches packed with sharpened stakes, guard shacks built a mile out for early warning. I stationed Nie Yun and the Sun brothers there permanently. The workers had never had it this good. Real grain every day, no sand mixed in, 2 meals included, and unlimited steamed bread. For people used to starving, this was heaven. Nobody skimped their effort because I never cheated anyone's pay. But now that the trenches were done, I could feel the anxiety spreading. Two workers summed it up perfectly over lunch. Once this job ends, you think the corporal will still pay us? Why would he? No work, no pay. My two boys eat like horses. Without this grain, we're back to scraping by. I understood their worry, but I had no intention of letting these men sit idle. Over the past 2 weeks, I'd learned what made Wuchuan's people tick. The fierce frontier spirit everyone talked about was really just desperation. Not enough food, terrible soil, endless wars, and corrupt officers bleeding them dry at every level. Morality is a luxury when your stomach is empty, but I'd also found their strength. Man or woman, young or old, these people were tough as iron. Give them enough to eat, and they'd outwork anyone. The men especially, born soldiers going to waste. Not training them would be criminal. At lunch, I clapped my hands for attention. The fortifications are done. Only 5 soldiers will stay here permanently. Faces fell everywhere. The good times were over. Back to scrounging. I smiled. But nobody's going home. You're all staying. Same pay. The place exploded with cheering. Men jumped up, dropping food everywhere. The corporal is our savior. I'd do anything for him. Even fight the Wuwan. I split them into 2 groups. Half would go west to cut timber. The other half would take picks and build a road. A road? They'd never heard of such a thing. The only proper road in Wuchuan was built by the founding emperor over 100 years ago. Nobody maintained roads. In their minds, roads just happened when enough people walked the same path. I told them to carve 4 flat wheel ruts between Quishan and Songshan villages, wide enough for our pushcarts to roll through smoothly and quickly. A few sharp ones figured it out immediately. Brilliant. This makes supply transport between the villages so much faster. Others just shrugged. They couldn't see how a flat road mattered if it didn't grow grain. Afterward, I pulled Lu Yang aside. He'd been hovering with something on his mind. Big brother, we're almost out of grain. Your wife gave me 100 taels to buy more, but what we have left only covers 3 more days. I waved it off. Don't worry about money. Someone's going to deliver silver to us very soon. Who? I looked toward the trenches. He followed my gaze, but didn't understand. He figured even if the traps worked, they'd only catch a few riders. Hardly worth the investment. He didn't say it, but I could read his face. My reasoning was simple. It had been a month since winter solstice, the coldest stretch of the year. If our villages were starving, the Wuan out on the frozen steppe were even worse off. I'd been visiting tea houses in the city to gather intelligence. Other villages had all been raided recently, with the army barely driving off attacks through sheer numbers. But our 2 villages had been left alone. The Wuan remembered losing 2 full raiding parties to us, and were wary. But they don't forgive. They don't forget. The longer the silence lasted, the bigger the next attack would be. I needed to be ready. Over the following 2 days, I had the workers build training equipment, a packed earth exercise yard, pull-up bars, parallel bars, and archery range. All based on modern military specifications from my old life. The extra timber went into 7 or 8 new cabins for the garrison. The villagers stared at the strange contraptions, completely baffled. I gathered them together. Anyone here want to join the army? They answered without hesitation. Not the regular army, never. But under you, Corporal? We're in. I told them straight. I don't need everyone. I only want the best. If you can match what I do, you're in. Full soldier's pay, 1 string of coins a month. I had Lu Yang light a stick as a timer, then demonstrated the test myself. 100-meter sprint. 20 wide grip pull-ups. 50 push-ups. Spin in place 10 times. Then grab a bow and hit a target at 50 paces. Bullseye. By the time I finished, the stick was only 2/3 burned. Dead silence. Nobody had expected me to be that fast, that strong, that precise. Especially the arrow after spinning. That broke their brains entirely. Anyone who completes all of this before the stick burns out gets 10 pounds of millet. Hands shot up everywhere. Everyone shouting at once, pushing toward me. I had to bark them into order. Quiet. If you want to be my soldier, the first lesson is discipline. Line up. One at a time. A big dark-faced man named Erniu went first. Built like a bull, and to my surprise, he powered through 20 pull-ups despite his weight. The rest left him gasping, but he finished everything within the time limit. Even managed to hit the target with his arrow, though not the center. I knew the standard was tough, especially for men who'd spent their lives half-starved. I'd set it high deliberately. I wanted them to understand that being my soldier wasn't like digging ditches. This required real ability. About 20% passed. The rest I sent away, but told them they could train alongside my soldiers anytime. No pay, but they could earn half a pound of grain per day by volunteering for night watch and patrol duty. That calmed them down. Any food was better than none in this winter. I now had 27 men total, including Huating with the horses. I set mandatory daily training for all of them. No exercise, no food. I split them into 3 squads of 9. Lu Yang led Squad 1. Nie Yun led Squad 2. Sun Ming led Squad 3. Rotating guard shifts, daily physical training, and I added horseback riding to the curriculum. We'd captured 13 Wuan horses plus 5 from the commandant. My men needed to learn to ride before we captured even more. Yes, sir, I understood the fundamentals of cold weapon warfare from my past life, small skirmishes and massive army clashes alike. The principle was always the same. Use your elite corps to punch through the enemy's formation. Break their lines, and victory comes at minimal cost. That's how Zhang Liaoda's 800 riders shattered 100,000 men at Shochuan. Hao Li Shimin became a legend at Hulao Pass. But this strategy demands a commander who leads from the front, someone with enough personal power and charisma that soldiers will follow him into certain death. I designated this mountain pass as my temporary base. Everything was falling into place, but something had been eating at me for days. The Wuan could strike at any moment, and that sword hung over my head constantly. If the border military were unified, I'd worry less. But Zhou Taishan was secretly trading with the enemy, and I still didn't know if Commandant Cloud Tian was involved. I'd given my squad such detailed instructions because I planned to leave for a few days to track down Zhou Taishan's smuggling route. Military bounties barely covered expenses. Raiding a trader's supply line would be far more profitable. I rode into the village and was immediately met by panicking villagers running toward me. Corporal, soldiers came to arrest you. Arrest me? For what? They say you're working with bandits. They're at your house right now harassing your wife. We came to get you. My blood went cold, then hot. They're touching my wife? I kicked the horse into a full gallop toward home. I reached my house, and one look was all it took. My vision went red. Several villagers lay beaten on the ground in my yard. A dozen armed thugs had Yushi surrounded, leering at her with disgusting grins. We heard Lu Tu's wife was pretty. Didn't expect this pretty, though. He threw away his army career to play bandit. You'll die too, but maybe if you're nice to us first, we'll let you live. The loudest one never finished his next sentence. My blade went through his chest from behind. His smile froze. He reached for his weapon, but I twisted the handle and his ribs cracked apart. I kicked his body to the ground and stood there, sword dripping, staring them all down. Nobody moves. Blood splattered across their faces before they even realized what happened. Their leader, a pale-faced man, pulled out a warrant. Lu Tu, you're an army corporal who conspired with the bandits on Breast Mountain. By the commandant's orders, we're here to arrest you. Husband, Yushi ran to me. I dismounted. Did they hurt you? She shook her head. No. You came just in time. Villagers arrived carrying hoes, axes, anything sharp. They surrounded the thugs completely. The situation flipped. The pale-faced one tried bluffing. Defying the commandant is treason. Are you all rebels? My heart had gone ice cold. Yushi was the only family I had in this world. My one untouchable line. These bastards had framed me and dared put their eyes on my wife. Even though they hadn't touched her, that alone was unforgivable. I walked straight at them, knuckles white on the sword handle. I examined their warrant. No official seal. Meaningless paper. And then it clicked. I'd killed every person on that mountain. No survivors. No witnesses. The only way anyone could know about the raid was if someone who went up with me had talked. I had a traitor. But first things first, these men weren't real soldiers. No seal meant no authority. I leaped at their leader, brought my sword down through his spear shaft and into his ribs in one stroke. My body was in the best shape it had been since arriving in this world. The Song family exercises, proper food, salt, rest. These malnourished thugs didn't stand a chance. Someone screamed, "Ghost! Run!" They scattered, but the villagers had them boxed in on every side. These were the same villagers who would have cowered before anyone in uniform just weeks ago. Not anymore. I'd protected them, given them work, fed them honestly. At this point, my word carried more weight than the emperor's, because the emperor had never given them a single grain. The villagers swarmed in with their farm tools. Hoes cracked against skulls. The thugs screamed and begged. Stop. We were just following orders. The commandant won't forgive this. I let the beating go on for a while, then called a halt. Anyone who wants to live, on your knees. Now, they dropped instantly, groveling. Sir, please. We're not real soldiers. I stabbed the one who spoke through the neck. Not soldiers? Then who sent you? I'll drag you to the commandant myself, and we'll sort this out face to face. That terrified them even more. Everyone in Wuchuan knew the commandant's reputation for cruelty. Being handed over to him was worse than death. The survivors crumbled. We're bandits. From Guanyin Mountain. We heard you raided Breast Mountain, so we thought we could scare you with a fake arrest warrant and shake you down. I drove my blade into one man's thigh. So you thought a piece of paper would fool me? We're sorry. We'll never come back. Please just let us go. The villagers roared. Kill them all. I pulled the blade out. They'd confirmed what I suspected. They were just opportunistic bandits. But they'd learned about the Breast Mountain raid from someone. That someone was one of the 7 men who'd gone up that mountain with me. I called out the names. Zhang Wu, Niuer, Lu Shirsi, Huating. Stepped forward. Huating arrived moments later with Lu Hu, weapons drawn, ready to fight. I stopped them with a raised hand. I looked Huating dead in the eyes. We have a traitor among us. I need you to find out who. I called out the 4 men who'd gone up Breast Mountain with me. The traitor had to be one of them. Honestly, I didn't think the others had the nerve to deal with bandits. The one with the most guts and connections had always been Huating. His face changed the instant I spoke. He wouldn't look at me. The others were shaking. Niuer stammered. Sir, I swear I'd never leak information to bandits. I tell small lies sometimes, but not about something like this. I watched everyone's micro-expressions, especially the captured bandits. I grabbed one and demanded, who's your informant? Tell me and you live. His eyes darted between Huating and the others. He hesitated too long. I cut his throat and grabbed the next one. Your leader must be important. You'd rather die than give him up? The second bandit glanced at Huating in fear. Huating looked away. Before the man could speak, I killed him too. Everyone was confused. Why was I killing people before they could answer? I tossed the body aside and smiled at the remaining captives. Too slow? You die too. That smile was more terrifying than the blade itself. One of them broke down crying. I'll talk. Boss, don't blame me. Stop. Huating stepped forward, calm and steady. Don't kill him. These are my brothers. The whole village gasped. Huating, helpful, quiet, hardworking Huating, was the leader of the Guanyin Mountain Bandits. The most feared gang within 50 miles, responsible for killing dozens of innocent people. Legend said their boss was a bear of a man who could swallow babies whole. Nobody would have guessed it was this mild-mannered hunter. I stared at him with ice in my eyes. How did I treat you? He couldn't meet my gaze. Better than anyone ever has. If I weren't a bandit, I'd have followed you loyally forever. So it was just greed? He threw his head back and laughed bitterly. Just greed? You make it sound simple. You're a natural warrior. Military merit falls into your lap, like picking fruit. You earn enough silver to feed everyone with leftovers to spare. But do you know how hard survival is for the rest of us? Do you think we chose to be bandits? I kicked him square in the gut. Don't give me that garbage. Every piece of merit I earned, I killed for with my own hands. You couldn't survive, so you preyed on defenseless farmers. And you call that justified? He spat blood and grinned at me. I'm not blaming you, but my brothers needed to eat. You're the richest man for miles. I knew I couldn't beat you in a fight, but I wasn't going to surrender quietly either. Then his arm twitched. A tiny sleeve arrow, almost invisible, shot at my skull. Watch out. Yushi saw it before anyone and threw herself at me, trying to shield me with her own body. But Huating had underestimated me badly. I'd known he was the traitor before I even called his name. I'd let him get this close precisely because I was ready. The moment his shoulder moved, I was already dodging. My blade flashed. Both his hands fell to the ground, severed at the wrists. He screamed, I hate you, Lu Tu. Why do you get a wife that beautiful? I saw her first at the market. But Zhou Taishan made me pick someone else. I couldn't draw his attention. So I got stuck with an ugly woman while you took her. You're too strong. 10 of me couldn't beat you. The only way was to trick you into chains and kill you. Why aren't you afraid of the army? Why aren't you afraid of anything? I ignored his raving. I caught Yushi in my arms and held her gently. Silly girl, why'd you jump in front of me? You think something like that could hurt me? I was worried about you. I kissed her forehead. Go inside. Heat some water. I'll need to wash the blood off later. Lu too. I'm talking to you. Are you even listening? What gives you the right to be this arrogant? He didn't even know the Breast Mountain bandits worked for Zhou Taishan. His scheme had nothing to do with the bigger conspiracy. He'd acted out of jealousy over Yushi and greed for my silver. I stood over him and looked down. Because I'm not a coward like you. When I wanted a woman, I stood up in front of the whole town and claimed her. I have the strength to back it up. Why would I be afraid? You think I'm like you? You only have the nerve to swing a blade at your own people. The moment you see a Wuan soldier, you'd crawl back inside your mother. His eyes went bloodshot, from pain, from rage, from everything. The villagers were screaming. Kill him! Kill the traitor! I walked behind him and addressed the crowd. Huating became a bandit and murdered innocent people. Today I execute him as justice for the dead. My sword came down. His head rolled across the dirt. I wasn't done. I killed every remaining bandit, then turned to face the village. You've all seen what happens to traitors. If our two villages aren't united like an iron wall, people will keep coming to take what's ours. If I ever find out anyone is leaking our business to outsiders, don't test me. Every neck in the crowd pulled in a little tighter. Whatever petty schemes anyone might have been nursing died right there. I called out to Lu Hu. Give grain and medicine to every villager who stood up to protect my wife today. I rewarded every villager who defended Yushi with 5 taels of silver each, right there in front of everyone. I wanted the whole village to see what loyalty earns. Reward your people generously and publicly. That's how you make sure others step up next time. But I didn't go home. I pulled out my map and found Guanyin Mountain, 30 miles south. Bandits never send their entire force on a raid. That meant there were more of them sitting in their hideout, and they already knew about me. I had to wipe them out tonight before they could prepare. I considered bringing Lu Yang and Lu Hu, but my eyes settled on the Sun brothers instead. It wasn't that I didn't trust them. It was that their position was still awkward. They were technically the commandant's spies. Taking them along to slaughter bandits would bind them to me through shared blood. After tonight, there'd be no going back for them. Saddle the horses. You're coming with me. Their faces lit up. They understood. This was the real test, and they wanted it. We reached the mountain, tied the horses, and started climbing. Sun Quan offered to take point, which surprised me. It wasn't fake bravery, he meant it. I let him lead. We killed a lookout at the halfway point and reached the summit, where a natural cave served as their base. I stopped Sun Meng from charging straight in. Cave acoustics amplify every sound. But the warning came a beat too late. A gruff voice echoed from inside. Number 9? That you? Sun Quan shot me an apologetic look. I patted his shoulder and whispered, follow my lead. I drew my bow and aimed at the cave's bend, reading the man's shadow on the wall by torchlight. When his head poked around the corner, my arrow punched through his skull before he saw a thing. I rushed in, switching to my sword. Around the next turn, I ran straight into 7 or 8 bandits drinking around a fire. We stared at each other for half a second. We're under attack. Before anyone could drop their cup, an arrow from Sun Meng behind me took one through the chest. I didn't even look back. I just charged. These bandits had no real skill, just brute thuggery. Drunk and sloppy, they went down like wheat under a scythe. The Sun brothers and I cleared the cave in minutes. We searched the place. Sun Quan kicked through the mess in frustration. Big brother, these guys are pathetic. Not a single coin. They don't even deserve to call themselves bandits. I'd expected at least some loot given the gang's reputation. Instead, rags, broken weapons, nothing of value. Then Sun Quan found a letter on one of the bodies. He handed it to me since he couldn't read. I unfolded it, and my blood chilled. It was addressed to Huating, written by someone in authority. The message was vague, urging him to act soon. But the signature read, Huaishua Zhao. Huaishua was one of the other 6 border towns, a massive garrison city like Wuchuan. Zhao had to be someone high up in their military, ambitious enough to plant an agent this deep. Huating had moved here 4 years ago, claiming to be a simple hunter. He'd disappear into the mountains for weeks at a time, and nobody thought twice. Shortly after his arrival, Guanyin Mountain's bandit problem began. But what was his real mission? He wasn't running a trade operation like Zhou Taishan's people. These bandits were dirt poor. No gold, No iron, no salt. Living in a damp cave with barely functioning weapons. This didn't fit the smuggling pattern at all. I couldn't figure it out, so I filed it away for later. Some puzzles need more pieces. I turned to the brothers. Sorry I dragged you out here for nothing. Sun Quan grinned his rough grin. Don't be polite, big brother. Watching you fight is better than a night with a woman. Seeing you cut people down is pure art. I laughed and slapped his arm. Next time the Wuwan come, I'll bring you along. He thumped his chest. I'm no coward. I've been itching to kill those animals. Then Sun Ming made a curious noise. He'd been examining the cave wall, and something clicked. A section of rock swung open, revealing a hidden staircase descending into darkness. The three of us looked at each other, then down into the black. I grabbed a torch and led the way down the hidden staircase, sword in my other hand. The Sun brothers followed close behind. The walls were dripping wet. There had to be a hot spring somewhere below. 30 steps down, we entered a sealed stone room. Just a wooden table and 2 chests. The table was covered in letters, all signed, Huaishua Zhao. Whatever Huating had been doing here, someone important in the neighboring garrison city was pulling his strings. The correspondence was frequent and deliberate. There was a bigger plot here that I couldn't see yet. Sun Ming opened the chests. The room exploded with silver light. 1,200 taels. Just sitting there. Take it all, I said, and ran back up to find cloth. The brothers wrapped everything up and hauled it out. Once we were clear, I pointed at the bundles on their backs. Whatever you're carrying is yours. They froze. Looked at each other. Then dropped to one knee. Big brother, you're our brother for life? I pulled them up. You fought beside me. We split what we take. Simple. Sun Quan started crying openly. We never had a father. Our mother raised us alone. Nobody except her has ever been this good to us. He sobbed harder. But I don't need all of this. Just 100 taels. I want to buy Tsuegua's freedom from the pleasure house. Sun Ming nearly slapped him. Tsuegua? She's taller than me. You want to marry that? I like big women. They bring good fortune. Sun Ming coughed awkwardly. Actually, I only need 100 taels too. There's a girl at the same place. I gave them 120 each. A man needs money in his pocket. Take it or you're insulting me. Yes, big brother. I pocketed all the letters, burned the cave with everything inside, and we rode home before dark. Back at my house, the brothers dumped the remaining silver on the table. Yushi's eyes went wide, but when she looked at me and saw I was calm, she relaxed. She trusted me completely. If I brought it home openly, it meant the problem was handled. I grabbed 300 taels and shoved it at the brothers. Even more than I'd promised. Their eyes glistened again. Big brother, sister-in-law, we owe you everything. After they left, Yushi locked the silver in a new wooden chest and hung the key around her neck, patting it with a smile. Our savings are growing nicely, husband. I pulled her close and kissed her until she was gasping. Aren't you going to ask why I gave the brothers so much? You always have your reasons. Besides, my father used to say that spending silver on your soldiers' loyalty is the best investment a leader can make. I love you more every day. Heat the water. Tonight, I want to show you something new. She buried her face in my chest. Be gentle with me. We didn't eat until well after dark. I cooked meat porridge and spoon-fed her. She was always wiped out afterward, and I felt bad about that. She asked how I knew so many techniques. I told her I'd once met an old beggar who showed me a picture book. She nearly spit porridge across the room laughing. Next morning after training, I planned to ride into the city to commission iron caltrops from a blacksmith, spiky metal balls to scatter across approach routes. My defensive strategy was taking shape. Let the enemy come to us, exhaust them against our fortifications, then strike. In the meantime, I trained my soldiers hard. As the top special forces soldier in my past life, I knew there were no hopeless recruits, only useless instructors. Enough food, enough meat, enough training, and these men would become real fighters. The Sun brothers stumbled out of their quarters looking pale. I stared at them. Don't tell me you both went to the pleasure house last night and brought women home. They nodded sheepishly. I'd given them one room with a single large bed. Did that mean all 4 of them had? Before I could ask, 2 young women stepped out, one plump, one thin, with rosy cheeks and satisfied smiles. They curtsied gracefully. Greetings, Corporal. The first thought that popped into my head when I saw their wives was, Fat Monk and Thin Monk. The Sun brothers had found their perfect matches. I congratulated them, told the women to settle down and live well. Then I smacked both brothers upside the head to snap them out of their lovesick days. Focus. We've got work. I told them it was time to report back to the commandant's office. They were overdue for a check-in. They looked embarrassed about the whole spy arrangement, but I waved it off. You know what to say and what not to say. They headed for the commandant's estate while I rode to the market, straight to the blacksmith shop. Hudelu was asleep in his chair. I poked him awake. Got a job for you. He perked up the second he heard business, then squeezed my arm with a grin. Look at you, big shot corporal now. I drew the shape of iron caltrops in the dirt with a stick. He recognized them immediately. 3 generations of blacksmiths in his family. He'd seen everything. 100 of them. How much? His abacus rattled. 100 taels. I held up my hand. 50. Final offer. 50? I can't even cover the raw iron. I turned and walked away. These caltrops didn't need quality steel, just crude iron melted down and shaped into spikes to cripple horse hooves. 1 tael each was robbery. Wait, you can't just cut the price in half. I kept walking. Fine. 50. I stopped. And throw in 100 arrowheads. You're bleeding me dry? Is this how you shop? I stared at him silently. He sighed dramatically. Consider the arrowheads a gift for our local hero. You've made all of Wuchuan proud. I paid him on the spot and asked if he'd ever thought about relocating his shop. What I really wanted was a dedicated blacksmith in my village, someone to forge weapons for my men. But he wasn't interested yet, and I wasn't ready to push it. I'd revisit that later. I bought another 100 pre-made arrows, filled my quiver, and waited for the Sun brothers. When they arrived, I distributed arrows to them. That shot Sun Meng had made in the cave yesterday proved they were both decent archers, better with bows than swords. I'd have them train the others in archery going forward. Everything was coming together. The trenches were done, the stake pits concealed under grass and snow. Once the caltrops arrived, both villages would be locked down tight. Any Wuhan raiding party would ride straight into a death trap. We were barely through the village gate when a crowd of excited villagers swarmed us. Corporal, the Wuhan came. Go look. My whole body tensed. Where? At the pass. The trenches. They're all dead. It's horrible. I blinked. It's already over. The villagers were tripping over each other trying to tell the story, waving their arms, acting it out. Right after you left, we saw smoke from the signal fire at Oxmang Pass. You told us not to be cowards, so we grabbed our tools and ran over. There. And when we got there, you won't believe it. The Wuhan riders were already dead. Horses and men, all piled up in the trenches. How many? I asked. Was anyone hurt? They shook their heads vigorously. Not a single person. Not one arrow fired. Those animals just rode straight into the pits and died on the stakes. Heaven itself is punishing them. Forget heaven. This is the corporal's strategy. The traps did all the work. He's the real miracle. I didn't have time for flattery. I caught Yushi's smile in the back of the crowd, cracked my whip, and galloped toward Oxmang Pass. From a distance I could already see Lu Yang and Nie Yun strutting around in new sheepskin coats, showing them off to everyone nearby. Our first harvest, and we hadn't even lifted a finger. When my boys saw me riding up, they ripped off their new sheepskin coats and ran over like excited kids. I looked at the 4 Wuhan corpses laid out neatly on the ground and grinned. Nice work. Nie Yun couldn't stop smiling. It wasn't us, it was your trenches. You should have seen their faces when the ground swallowed them. I've never seen Wuhan look that pathetic. Lu Yang acted out the whole scene, imitating the riders' expressions as they fell into the stake pits. Everyone was howling with laughter. I told them to keep the pits maintained, replace broken stakes, redo the camouflage, and most importantly, never let a single Wuhan rider escape alive. If they did, the secret of our traps would be blown. I pulled out 20 taels and handed one to each man present. This kill goes on your record. If you'd rather have grain, exchange it at the village. They were ecstatic. This was the first time anyone besides me had killed Wuhan in our area. Nobody in Wuchuan would believe a bunch of farmers had wiped out an armed Wuhan patrol without firing a single arrow. I pointed at their sheepskin coats. Wear them proudly. New rule. Whatever you take off a dead enemy is yours. Kills in the trenches get split evenly. Nie Yun offered his coat to the night watch instead. The kid was younger than everyone else, but thought bigger than all of them. I tossed him a badge. You're squad leader now. This entire pass is your responsibility. He tried to refuse. said he wasn't experienced enough. I shut that down. You killed a Wuan soldier with your own hands 2 weeks ago. You've earned this. Pick up the burden. I threw another badge to Lu Yang. You're squad leader too. Nie Yin runs the pass. You handle patrols and security. Everything matters. It's all military merit. Both straightened up. Thank you for your trust. I sent the Sun brothers to the city with the 4 heads to collect our bounty. Everyone was buzzing. They knew I'd distribute the rewards fairly. Meanwhile, I had the dead Wuan horses dragged out of the trenches. We butchered them on the spot, bled them, gutted them, buried the toxic livers. We set up big pots over fires and started boiling 2 horses' worth of meat. The other 2 I had cut into strips and smoke-cured on wooden racks for storage. The smell of cooking horse meat spread across the hills. People came from everywhere. My soldiers hadn't seen real meat in ages. Even the Quishan villagers had only eaten that 1 deer I'd hunted weeks ago. Songshan people hadn't tasted meat in nearly a year. Kids crept up, drooling. Corporal, can we just smell it? We won't eat any. Just let us stand close. I put on a stern face. No. They flinched and hid behind their parents. Go home and get your bowls. Everyone who helped dig trenches gets meat. Smelling it without eating. What kind of nonsense is that? Both villages erupted in cheers. The corporal is like a father to us. Don't say that. I haven't finished living this life yet. Yushi arrived with a jug of my favorite strong liquor. 2 horses gave us nearly 1,000 pounds of meat, enough for 2 pounds per person across both villages. The smoked portions I kept exclusively for my soldiers. They were training hard every day and needed the protein. Without enough meat, the exercise would break them down instead of building them up. I saved plenty for the Sun brothers. They didn't return until near dark. Nie Yin spotted them first and called out, but they didn't answer. I ran over immediately. Something was wrong. Both were slumped on their horses, barely conscious. Arrows stuck out of their backs. I pulled them down carefully. Sun Ming, what happened? Sun Kuang answered weakly. Bandits. Strong ones. The villagers with us are dead. They took the bounty, the money, the grain, everything. Please save my brother first.